Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Load a random protagonist template. Chapter 101. My ideal can finally come true. Magneto is suspended in midair, surrounded by a powerful magnetic field. Under his control, the entire Earth's magnetic field begins to be affected by his influence and gradually changes. And humans living in major cities on the Earth have also discovered abnormalities. The Earth was trembling, the river was surging, and many metal objects floated out of control, faintly forming the trajectory of magnetic coils in the air. At this time, they suddenly discovered that the rumors about Apocalypse's destruction that had been released by League of Legends International were not exaggerations but were actually happening. What we're seeing now is a geomagnetic phenomenon where the surface layer is filled with geomagnetic elements, and so is the seafloor surface. If this continues, the mainland will be affected sooner or later, and by then our country, cities, and everything created since the Bronze Age will be completely destroyed. Quote. On TV, the scientists interviewed all gave an answer that made all human beings despair. For a time, people were in chaos and various riots occurred frequently, so the government had to send a large number of police to suppress and appease the people. What happened? First, all the nuclear bombs were launched, and now there is a problem with the geomagnetism. Is it really the Apocalypse who did it as rumored? And what does Nick Fury do for a living? Why has there been no reaction until now when something like this happened? Quote. The president was furious while sitting in his office, and the defense minister hurriedly explained. I have been in close contact with Nick Fury. The current situation is indeed caused by a guy named Apocalypse. He is solving the terrorist incidents caused by Hydra in various places, so there is a delay. But he said it was okay. The superheroes of the League of Legends Company and the mutants were already heading to Cairo to solve the Apocalypse, and Captain Marvel would arrive later. So this crisis can definitely be solved. Quote, let this news go out to appease people first, and then contact me with the president of Egypt to see if we can allow us to send fighter jets to help. The president thought for a moment and then ordered. The Minister of Defense shook his head. I've been contacted, but I don't think we can be of much help. The Egyptian side has begun operations, but all aircraft, tanks, missiles, and even pistols cannot enter Cairo. Quote. So, now the fate of mankind can only depend on those superheroes and mutants. The president couldn't help but sigh. The Secretary of Defense nodded. We can only rely on them. At the same time, similar conversations and conclusions were held in the offices of leaders of other countries. So now all humans in the world are focusing their attention on Cairo and placing their hopes on the superheroes of the League of Legends Company, hoping that they will solve the Apocalypse and save mankind. On the X-Fighter, which is currently on its way to Cairo, all reporters' phones have been buzzed with calls. They thought this incident was an exaggeration, but they didn't expect it to become true. If the Apocalypse cannot be stopped, the entire human civilization will completely collapse within one day. Therefore, the bosses asked them to broadcast the entire battle to save humanity without missing a beat. They were lucky enough to receive the biggest news in the world right now. Arrive. After 4 or 5 hours of flight, they finally arrived in Cairo and saw the pyramid standing in the center of Cairo from a distance. It looks like we're here, so let me let you in. Magneto, who was suspended in the control, since the appearance of the X-Fighter, deliberately opened a magnetic opening and let the fighter in. He wants to get rid of Apocalypse with the help of Hawking and Captain Marvel, so naturally he won't stop them like he stopped the human army. The X-Fighter slowly landed in front of the pyramid, and Hawking led everyone out one after another. What appeared in front of him were all the Brotherhood mutants brought by Mystique who had been strengthened by Apocalypse. Follow the plan. He winked at Storm and the others, and before Mystique could speak, Hawking took Nightcrawler directly into the sky and flew towards the pyramid. Just now on the X-Fighter, they had already formulated a battle plan. That is, once they arrived at the location, the others were responsible for stopping the Brotherhood mutants guarding outside, while Hawking, the strongest, took Nightcrawler, who could teleport, directly into the pyramid to rescue Professor X. After that, they worked together to kill Apocalypse and deal with Magneto, and the matter was over. Seeing Hawking flying towards the pyramid, Mystique rolled her eyes and did not order her flying mutants to intercept. She just waved her hand and pointed at Storm and others and ordered. Get them. It was Magneto's plan to let Hawking deal with Apocalypse, so how could she stop it? But you can't do nothing, otherwise it will be bad if Tianchi comes out and finds something abnormal. No one stopped me, that's great. Without anyone to stop him, Hawking and Nightcrawler punched the pyramid, instantly punching a big hole in it, and then flew Nightcrawler through the hole into the pyramid. Soon they found Apocalypse and Professor X in the pyramid hall, who were undergoing a transfer of consciousness. Send the professor back to the plane. Nightcrawler teleported to appear next to Professor X, hugged him and teleported away again. Because of Professor X's departure, the transfer of consciousness was interrupted, and Apocalypse opened his eyes instantly. Kiwan/. Without any nonsense, while giving instructions to Nightwalker, Hawking condensed a Chi-Yuan/ and threw it at Tianchi's neck. As soon as Tianchi opened his eyes, Kiwan/ had already slashed on his neck. Z-la-la-la. The powerful cutting ability of Chi-Yuan cut off half of Apocalypse's neck in an instant. However, as the oldest mutant with thousands of abilities, Apocalypse is obviously not so easy to kill. Upon discovering that Professor Chi-Yuan/ is a cutting skill with super strong cutting ability, but it actually does not have too much energy, so it is very easy for Tianchi to absorb it. After dissolving the Chi-Yuan/, his body's self-healing ability was activated, and the wounds on his neck disappeared. How dare you interrupt my sacred ritual? I want you to taste the wrath of the gods. Seeing the floating initiator Hawking, Apocalypse waved his hands, and countless javelins condensed with sand and stone immediately took shape and shot towards Hawking at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. It's really not that easy. Seeing that the sneak attack failed to kill Apocalypse, Hawking showed a trace of regret on his face. He then took out the adamantium alloy rod, scattered the javelins, and quickly flew out of the pyramid. It has not been long since the moon rose, and the moon cannot be seen in this pyramid. Moreover, it is currently being broadcast live all over the world. People who are hiding in this pyramid and fighting life and death cannot be photographed. If we don't let everyone see how powerful Apocalypse is, how can we highlight his role as a super company in League of Legends? Therefore, after Hawking discovered that the sneak attack could not kill Tianchi immediately, he did not hesitate to fight. He used Wukong to quickly escape from the attack and flew out of the previous big hole. You ruined my ritual, do you think you can escape? Seeing Hawking flying away, Apocalypse also flew up and chased after him. Outside the pyramid, there was also a huge melee at this time. The Brotherhood of Mutants led by Mystique are all very strong because they have been strengthened by Apocalypse. The most obvious among them are Mystique, who can transform into any mutant at will and use their abilities, and Red Tank, who has a body enhanced by Crimson Power and is so indestructible that it can even knock down buildings if it runs. But it's not bad here either. Peter, Venom and Jessica work well together. Wolverine, Death Woman, Storm, Phoenix, Cyclops, Colossus, Beast, Iceman, Rakshasa and Phantom Cat are originally the best among mutants. This time Hawking did not let Phoenix Girl stay in school. I don't know what Apocalypse's strength is even if I haven't beaten him before. If I can't beat him in the end, Phoenix Girl is the best weapon. Although in this way, Phoenix Girl's second personality will soon wake up, but that will happen later, and we can find ways to solve it slowly. Of course, he would not let Phoenix Girl take action if it was not necessary, he could just fight the soldiers below with everyone. Turtle-style Qigong Wave. As soon as he flew out of the pyramid, Hawking immediately turned around and hit Apocalypse with a Qigong Wave, which was pursuing him. Apocalypse raised his hands, and a circular force field shield appeared, blocking Hawking's Qigong Wave. This attack can't hurt me. It seems there is an upper limit to energy absorption, and it can't compare to the Black Emperor. Seeing that Tianchi used field protection to block his turtle-style Qigong instead of directly using his ability to absorb the energy of turtle-style Qigong, Hawking was relieved. If Apocalypse has the same ability as Black Emperor, then it will be difficult to fight next. The Black Emperor can even absorb the energy of nuclear bombs, and even the energy generated by physical attacks. The only shortcoming is that his mental protection is not high. In the end, he was immobilized by Professor X, unable to activate his abilities, and died at the hands of Magneto. Just now, Tianchi used the force field ability to block his Qigong Wave, instead of directly absorbing it like he did with Chi-Yuan/ before. There is a high probability that the energy output by Turtle School Qigong has exceeded Tianqi's ability to absorb energy. Then try magic close combat. Seeing that the turtle-style Qigong did not work, Hawking turned around and rushed towards Tianqi with the adamantium alloy stick. Although the Turtle School Qigong is powerful, it also consumes a lot of energy. Since it cannot break Tianqi's force field defense, it is better to save his energy. Load Harry Potter template. On the way to the apocalypse, he loaded up the Harry Potter template to increase his magical power. In fact, loading the Wukong template will definitely increase the combat effectiveness, but the moon has not come out yet. He has to wait for the moon to come out before loading the Wukong template, so that the combat effectiveness can be maximized when transforming into a giant ape. So the current battle with Apocalypse is mainly a test. If Apocalypse is not strong, it is best to kill him. If Apocalypse is too strong, then delay the time and wait for the moon to come out. It seems it's my turn to fight back. Seeing Hawking rushing towards him quickly, Apocalypse put away his defensive force field, closed his eyes and his whole body glowed. A powerful energy burst out from his body and shot straight towards Hawking. He can absorb energy from the outside world and then convert it into the most primitive destructive energy waves, which can be emitted from any part of the body. 5,000 years ago, no mutant could catch the energy wave he released with all his strength. Multiple afterimage punches. Feeling the power of the energy wave, Hawking's heart suddenly condensed and turned directly into more than a dozen afterimages to confuse Tianqi. The energy wave of the apocalypse passed through Hawking's afterimage and shot straight to the high slope outside the city in the distance. Boom! With a loud noise, the high slope disappeared, leaving only a terrifying giant pit, which stunned countless humans who were watching on TV. This apocalypse is so terrifying. Die. After dodging Apocalypse's energy wave attack, Hawking had already ducked behind Apocalypse and inserted a stick into Apocalypse's back instead of a gun. He will insert the stick into Apocalypse's back like he did with Venom last time, and then release magic from the inside to attack. However, at this moment, Apocalypse's eyes suddenly turned white, and he released some kind of ability to increase his reaction speed. He turned around and grabbed Hawking's adamantium alloy rod with one hand. You ant! His body glowed again, and he obviously planned to release energy waves again at close range, making Hawking unable to hide. It's really not that simple. Hawking was not surprised to see that his attack intention was seen through. In the movie, Apocalypse can even see through Quicksilver's attacks at his peak, let alone his sneak attacks. He was a little surprised that Apocalypse's power was also ridiculously strong. He could grab the adamantium rod he stabbed with all his strength with one hand. It was probably a combination of many powerful mutant abilities. Avada Kedavra. While Apocalypse was glowing and about to release energy waves, Hawking had already recited the incantation of the death curse. Suddenly, a green light shot out from the adamantium alloy rod and accurately hit Tianqi's body. If Apocalypse cannot catch his long stick, then he will pierce the long stick into his body. If he catches it, the head of the long stick must be very close to Apocalypse's chest, and Apocalypse will not have time to release the life-killing curse. Hide. The death curse ignored any energy defense and directly harmed the soul. He didn't believe it would have no effect on the Apocalypse society. Apocalypse, who was hit by the death curse, immediately let out a scream, interrupted the emission of energy waves, and turned on the force field protection. Avada Kedavra. Seeing that the death curse was indeed effective against Apocalypse, Hawking was forced back by the defensive force field and threw out the second one. The green death curse passed straight through the position, causing Tianqi to let out a second scream. Avada Kedavra. Then came the third death curse. After thousands of consciousness transfers, the soul is indeed very powerful, but if it is continuously hit by the death curse, I believe it will die. Don't even think about it. Apocalypse gave up the defensive force field, activated his super reaction ability, and easily dodged the third life-killing curse. If one person can escape, how can 5,000 people escape? Seeing that the death curse could not hit, Hawking no longer held back and directly formed the seal. The art of multiple shadow clones. Over the city of Cairo, 5,000 Hawkins wearing golden armor surrounded Apocalypse. Originally, before the big event of the Apocalypse, Hawking planned to hide his shadow clone ability and use the shadow clone to do some secret and unknown things in the future. But now, he has changed his mind. On the one hand, it's because Apocalypse is too powerful. Apocalypse has thousands of abilities, but he has only shown a few of them now. If he doesn't kill the opponent as soon as possible, he may be killed by some of his abilities later. On the other hand, it is because he feels that after this incident, the League of Legends company's global status will skyrocket by leaps and bounds. If he wants to do something in the future, there is no need to hide it too much. Instead, it is better to take advantage of this global live broadcast to knock the mountain out of the mountain and show off enough strength to let everyone know how powerful he is and how powerful the League of Legends is. Only in this way can the best publicity effect be achieved. Therefore, what he has to do now is to show off as much as possible, and as popular as possible. It is best to make most of the human beings become his crazy fans. What's going on? The two sides who were fighting in the melee below all stopped and froze in place when they looked at the densely packed Hawking above. The ability to clone is not uncommon among mutants. There is one person in the Brotherhood who can create hundreds of clones. After being strengthened by Apocalypse, he can already create thousands of clones. However, the mutant has no other abilities except his clone, and his clone is just an ordinary person. But Hawking is different. With Hawking's strength, if there are 5,000 clones at once, how can we fight? At this moment, Mystique's heart was shaken. If there are really 5,000 Hawkings, then their plan will never succeed. No matter how powerful Apocalypse is, there is no way he can win against 5,000 Hawkings. At that time, what they will face is no longer the remnant Hawking after fighting to the death with Apocalypse, but thousands of basically full Hawking, even today's Magneto plus all the Brotherhood members. It's impossible to win. Perhaps these are all illusions and not real. At this time, Mystique thought in her mind. On the other side, Magneto, who was floating in the air and controlling the Earth's magnetic field, felt chilled when he looked at the densely packed Hawking in the air. He had the same idea as Mystique. At this time, everyone watching the live broadcast had mixed feelings after seeing Hawking in the sky. Those who are happy are ordinary people. Hawking allows them to see the hope of victory and the hope of living. What worries us are the enemies who want to take advantage of the League of Legends company. Avada Kedavra. 5,000 green lights shot out at the same time, pointing directly at Tianchi. But if you look carefully, you will find that one of them is extra green, and the others are just light green. In the past few years, Hawking has not slackened in the research and practice of magic, and has been trying to cast spells without a wand. Nowadays, it is possible to perform magic without the aid of a wand. However, the wand is not only a stabilizer, but also an amplifier of magic power. The magic effect performed without a wand is much worse than that performed with a wand. The shadow clones he created at this time did not have wand amplification, so the power of the death curse he cast was naturally much less powerful than the one he cast with the Lord of the Rings and adamantium alloy rod. However, even if the power was much smaller, if 5,000 attacks were hit at the same time, he believed that Apocalypse would never survive. Dense green light shot toward him in front of his eyes. Apocalypse, who had always been pretentious, also shrank his pupils at this time. His powerful spiritual intuition told him that even he would die on the spot if he was hit by so many green energies that hurt his soul. But so many attacks spread all over the space around him, even if he activated his super reaction, he would never be able to dodge them. Fortunately, he had enough abilities and he immediately thought of a way to deal with it. A space wormhole suddenly appeared behind him, and then he stepped back and disappeared directly, causing all the life-killing spells to fail. I almost forgot that this guy can also open wormholes. Now we're in trouble. Seeing Tianchi disappear, Hawking's expression also changed. The ability of the space system is a very troublesome ability for him, because as long as the opponent wants to escape, he has no way to stop him now. He has not yet learned Wukong's teleportation. He can catch up by locking the opponent's energy. He also won't make a magic circle like the one in Hogwarts school that can prevent the movement of space. Maybe Voldemort's remnant soul exists, but he hasn't got the remnant soul yet. How dare you hurt me, I want you to die. Apocalypse appears again, already at the top of the pyramid. He roared angrily, his eyes turned white, and he fully activated his sand control ability. In an instant, the tens of millions of tons of pyramids instantly disintegrated and turned into sand grains all over the sky, overwhelmingly pressing towards 5,000 Hawking's shadow clones. Gara's Sand Waterfall Burial. Looking at the flying sand in the sky, Hawking immediately thought of Gaara's ninjutsu. It's just that the scale of Apocalypse is dozens of times larger than that of Gaara. The weakness of the shadow clone is that it basically has no defense. If it is covered by this sand blast, it will probably disappear in an instant. Although the death curse can ignore most energy defenses, it can be physically blocked. Even if he uses the life curse again at this time, he will not be able to penetrate the flying sand in the sky. Let's withdraw. Seeing that the battle between Hawking and Apocalypse in the air was completely beyond their level, Mystique immediately led the Brotherhood's mutants away from the battlefield and retreated towards Magneto. They were just pretentious to prevent Tianchi from being suspicious, but if they continue to stay here, they will be affected, so it is natural for them to withdraw. When Storm and others saw Mystique and others withdrawing, they hurriedly gathered together and planned to activate their abilities to see if they could help Hawking. Don't worry about me. You go after Mystique and the others. First, find a way to interrupt Magneto's current actions and prevent him from completely controlling the Earth's magnetic field. I can handle Apocalypse. After Hawking discovered the following situation, he immediately gave instructions to Storm and others. He vaguely felt that the leader of this incident was not Apocalypse, but the scheming Magneto. So now the focus is to prevent Magneto from continuing to control the Earth's magnetic field, otherwise the Earth's civilization will be destroyed before he can solve the apocalypse. After hearing Hawking's instructions, Storm and the others gritted their teeth and quickly chased after Mystique and the others. It's just a little bit of flying sand, let me break it. 5,000 shadow clones simultaneously assumed the Kamezen Ryu posture. Turtle-style Qigong. 5,000 Qigong waves instantly illuminated the entire Cairo, breaking through the flying sand in the sky, and concentrated on Tianchi, who controlled the flying sand. Force field activated. Seeing that the flying sand was broken through, Apocalypse immediately gave up controlling the flying sand and activated his own defensive force field. The energy beams of 5,000 turtle sect Qigong hit Tianchi's defensive force field, immediately making the force field that had never wavered tremble. But in the end, the force field persisted and was not destroyed. It's just that because the power of the 5,000 Dao turtle sect Qigong is too strong, even if Apocalypse opened the defensive force field in the air, he was swept away very far. Rasengan 5,000 Lianwan. However, at this moment, Hawking's shadow clones had already flown up one after another, and then each of them held a basketball-sized Rasengan in their hands, and hit Apocalypse's defensive field one after another without interruption. The basketball-sized Rasengan has powerful spiral penetration. Although it cannot break Apocalypse's defensive force field, it can send him spinning in the air. So in the eyes of everyone, they saw Apocalypse flying around like a ball being hit by Hawking's shadow. In fact, Hawking knew that he could not break Apocalypse's defensive field by doing this, so he was just trying to delay as much time as possible. After the battle just now, he has discovered some of Apocalypse's weaknesses. Although Apocalypse has thousands of mutant abilities, only a few such as self-healing, immortality, strength, speed, etc. are passive abilities. Most of the abilities must be actively released, such as his defensive force field, super reaction, sand control ability, mind invasion and strengthening other mutants, etc. In most cases, he cannot activate multiple abilities at the same time. Just like now, when he uses the defensive force field with explosive defense power, he can no longer control the sand to attack. So Hawking used the Shadow Clone's Rasengan to continuously attack Apocalypse, allowing him to maintain force field defense to delay time. It seems like your clone can't exist forever. Let's see how long you can delay it. At this time, Apocalypse, who was constantly being beaten away, was also extremely angry. But he soon discovered that Hawking's clones were disappearing after the attack, and their numbers were decreasing one by one. So even if he doesn't use the wormhole to escape and just maintains force field defense, it won't take long for all those clones to be exhausted. It won't take long, just wait until the moon comes out. Hawking's body murmured. The skill of Shadow Clone was actually used for spying and transmitting information when it was first developed by the second Hokage, not for fighting. Because the Shadow Clone will equally divide all the chakra in the body. As a result, although you have more tactical choices, your combat endurance is greatly reduced. In particular, Shadow Clones are very fragile. If one is not killed, it is equivalent to losing half of the chakra in an instant. Therefore, when most ninjas fight, they rarely create many shadow clones to assist in the battle. At most, they only have one or two, and they are used at critical times. Even Kisame, known as the tailed beast without a tail, would not create thousands of shadow clones at once during battle. Only Naruto, because of his Uzumaki bloodline and Nine Tails chakra, would habitually use a large number of shadow clones to assist in combat. However, except when fighting Mizuki for the first time, he would rarely produce the maximum 3,000 shadow clones at once. Because one of them was accidentally attacked by the other party with a large-scale ninjutsu, it was all scrapped. Moreover, if chakra is divided into 3,000 parts on average, basically each shadow part has very little chakra in the body. The same is true for Hawking now. Although he has divided into 5,000 shadow clones at once, the chakra, magic power and energy in each shadow clone's body are very little. Therefore, after using an extremely mana-consuming life-killing curse, a gas-consuming turtle-style qigong, and a chakra-consuming Rasengan, basically even if it is not attacked, it will automatically disappear due to exhaustion of energy. In this way, the fight lasted for more than half an hour, and all the shadow clones except Hawking disappeared in the sky. At this time, Tianchi also put away his force field defense. I can feel that you don't have much energy in your body now, and you basically can't pose a threat to me. I appreciate you very much. If you are willing to surrender to me, I can forget about the actions you just committed. In the future, when I rule the entire Earth again, your status will be second only to me and Magneto. Quote. This Apocalypse is really tolerant. Hearing Tianchi's solicitation, Hawking showed a look of surprise on his face. He didn't expect that he made Tianchi so embarrassed in the early stage, but now Tianchi is willing to recruit him because of his talent. It seems that this guy was able to rule mankind 5,000 years ago not only by power and strength. Also, the four horsemen of Apocalypse 5,000 years ago in the movie were willing to sacrifice their lives in order to save Apocalypse. That level of loyalty cannot be obtained by force alone. The sound is loud. Quietly adding a loudspeaker spell to himself, Hawking floated opposite Tianchi and refused righteously. Even if I die here today, I will not agree to your solicitation. I know that as long as I promise you, I will have endless wealth and endless rights in the future, and I can do whatever I want. However, that is not what I want. What I want is to use my ability to help more people in need, to punish evil and eliminate evil, to protect the weak and uphold justice. I am inseparable from sin. Quote. Hawking's words, amplified by the amplifying spell, instantly spread throughout Cairo and were also transmitted to the live cameras below. Originally, everyone watched Hawking's shadow clones disappear one by one. Finally, Apocalypse stood opposite Hawking and seemed to be saying something to Hawking, but because the distance was too far, nothing could be recorded. Only now do I know that Apocalypse saw that Mr. Flash was powerful and wanted to recruit Mr. Flash to be his subordinate. The extremely noble Mr. Flash decisively rejected Apocalypse's solicitation. He was unwilling to stand side by side with evil even at the cost of his life, which made the viewers in front of the TV have tears in their eyes. Since you are so ignorant, then go to hell. Tianchi was furious when he saw that Hawking refused so readily. His body expanded rapidly and turned into a giant more than 10 meters tall. Then he slapped Hawking. Changing the density of his body and transforming into a huge body is also one of the abilities he gained. Especially when combined with passives such as self-healing, super strength, and super speed, his melee strength can be increased several times. Load Wukong template. The Harry Potter time template has ended, and Hawking immediately loaded the Wukong template. His originally empty body became full in an instant. The shadow clone only shared the energy equally, but Hawking's body has blood, so even after it is split equally, the Saiyan blood's recovery ability is already strong, and with the blessing of Goku's template, the energy in the body was instantly restored to above the level. Not to mention the wizard's bloodline. The wizard's bloodline can always transform external energy into the body and turn it into magic power. There is no such thing as magic power depletion. After the magic power is separated, it can be quickly recovered. As for chakra, it is extracted from the combination of physical strength and spiritual strength. Even if he does not have the chakra recovery of Nine Tails now, as long as the physical body and spirit are restored, the chakra will naturally be restored. Besides, the chakra recovery speed of the Uzumaki bloodline is also famously fast. Therefore, facing this blow from Tianqi, Hawking can actually avoid it. But he didn't hide. The reason is simple, because the moon is coming out soon, and soon he can transform into a giant ape and launch a major counterattack. Therefore, before that, he felt that the atmosphere had already been heightened to this point. If he was not injured, the effect would be greatly reduced and it would be difficult to meet his psychological expectations. Just like every time Ultraman fights monsters, if he kills the monster every time he comes up 3 times, 5 times, 5 times and 2 times, it will not show his greatness. In the middle, you must be tortured by monsters, the energy lamp lights up, and finally you defeat the monsters, in order to be even more admired by the public. The muscles all over his body are bulging. Because the Wukong template has been loaded, his basic combat power has increased from more than 200 to nearly 400. Even if Apocalypse becomes huge at this time, he is confident that he can withstand this blow. Boom! Hawking was hit head-on by Apocalypse and fell from the air at high speed as if he had been hit by a train. He spat out blood all over his mouth and hit the ground hard, making a huge crater in the ground. He looked like he was dying. The effect should be perfect now. Lying in the huge pit, Hawking thought to himself. He was indeed slightly injured in the hard fight just now, but it was far from the extent of vomiting blood or dying. The way he is now is just for the effect of the show. And the effect was indeed as good as Hawking expected. Almost everyone who was watching the battle through the live broadcast at this time had red eyes when they saw that Hawking would rather die than surrender, and was beaten to death. Even many women and children shed tears. Even the reporters who were risking their lives to shoot and explain live now have red eyes. "Get up, Mr. Flash, we need you." A younger reporter shouted excitedly to Hawking, wanting to use his voice to encourage Hawking to stand up again. The reporter's shout instantly made the audience watching the live broadcast excited. People watching the live broadcast from all over the world shouted the same words towards the TV. Even some national leaders are no exception. "For the sake of this planet, for the sake of justice, I won't really lose." As if he heard everyone's encouragement, Hawking stood up again tremblingly. "Go to hell." Tianqi watched Hawking stand up again, and immediately raised his big foot angrily and stepped down hard, intending to completely end Hawking's life. At the same time, a full moon finally hung in the sky. "It's time to end this." Hawking turned to look at the full moon. Dong dong, dong 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 dong. The familiar accelerating heartbeat came again, and Hawking's body quickly expanded, bursting through the golden armor, and transformed into a super King Kong whose size was not inferior to Apocalypse. Roar! With a roar, Hawking hugged Tianqi's thigh who was about to step on him, and then threw him to the ground with a throw over his shoulder. But he didn't let go. He had already thought of a way to restrain the wormhole in Apocalypse space. As long as he keeps holding on to Apocalypse's body, even if Apocalypse opens the space wormhole, he will still be unable to enter the wormhole and leave. Just like Nightwalker, once someone grabs the body, it is useless to teleport because it will teleport with the person. Moreover, Apocalypse is not teleporting, but opening a space wormhole, and one must pass through the space wormhole to leave. Cut off your descendants. After transforming into a giant ape, Hawking naturally no longer pays attention to attack moves but only uses pure power. So after an over-the-shoulder throw stunned Tianqi, Hawking hugged one of his legs and directly aimed at the little brother in the middle, kicking him with all his strength. "Ah!" Tianqi instantly let out a shocking scream. Just kidding. After transforming into a giant ape, the combat power increased tenfold. At this time, Hawking's combat power was close to 4,000. That power was so terrifying that he could easily blow up a hill with one kick, let alone step on Apocalypse's little brother. At the beginning, with a combat power of 1,500, he could compete with Captain Marvel in this universe. Now, with a combat power of close to 4,000, he can definitely suppress Apocalypse. Because of his super self-healing ability, the little brother who had just been stepped on immediately grew back. Apocalypse wanted to fight hard and get rid of Hawking's control, but found that his power was actually lost to Hawking. Go to hell. When he stomped on Tianqi's little brother and distracted him, Hawking's second kick went straight to Tianqi's head. Tianqi was shocked when he saw this. Even with his self-healing ability, it would be very troublesome if he lost his head. The recovery of the head was much slower than that of other parts of the body. Force field defense. The powerful defensive force field was instantly opened, blocking Hawking's foot. Just because his legs were tightly grasped by Hawking, his defensive force field could not isolate him for a while. Stab it. Tianqi is also a ruthless person. He turned his right hand into a knife and actually cut off the leg held by Hawking with one knife, getting rid of Hawking's control. With his self-healing ability, it only takes a few seconds to grow a new leg. Hard enough. Hawking sighed in his heart, immediately threw away his useless right leg, and formed a seal with his hands. Shadow Clone Technique. 4 identical Saiyan giant ape shadow clones appeared next to him. The 5 apes quickly dispersed and surrounded Apocalypse. Then they opened their mouths and fired 5 full-force energy pillars at Apocalypse. Although Apocalypse's defensive force field is powerful, it was almost broken when it was hit by 5,000 Turtle Sect Qigong at the same time. Therefore, its defensive capabilities still have an upper limit. Now Hawking transforms into a Saiyan giant ape, and separates 4 shadow clones. At the same time, he concentrates all the energy in his body and shoots it out at the same time. He didn't believe that Apocalypse's defensive force field could not be broken yet. Boom! 5 huge energy pillars shot at Tianqi's defensive force field at the same time, and the force field immediately started to tremble. After only holding on for less than 5 seconds, the entire defensive force field shattered. This is impossible. With an unbelievable roar, Tianqi was hit by the aftermath of the energy pillar. His entire body instantly vaporized and disappeared, and he could no longer die. His defensive force field has never been broken. This is the first and last time. Finally solved. Be recovered quickly. After Tianqi was solved, the 4 giant ape clones also disappeared due to exhaustion of energy. Hawking's body fell down with some weakness. Releasing all the energy in the body at once is too much even in the Saiyan giant ape state. But it doesn't matter, the recovery ability of the giant ape state is stronger, and he can fully recover in a short time, and he still has a huge amount of chakra and magic power in his body. However, just when Huo Jinggong relaxed his vigilance, a cold light suddenly flew out of the ground at high speed and appeared behind his butt. Brush. His tail was cut off instantly. Not good. When he realized that his tail had been cut off, Hawking's expression suddenly changed, because that meant that he would immediately exit the giant ape form, and he would not be able to transform into a giant ape again until his tail grew back. Hawking, I told you to join my brotherhood a long time ago, but you just didn't listen, but I still thank you for helping me deal with that self-righteous guy in Tianqi. Just when Hawking's body shrank and returned to normal, Magneto slowly flew over with his hands behind his back. It's indeed you. Hawking, who had returned to his normal human body, looked at Magneto, who was flying over with a solemn expression. The only person who can control metal to cut off his tail silently is the enhanced Magneto, and most people don't know that he will exit the giant ape state after his tail is cut off. Where are Professor Aurora and the others? Just now he asked Storm and others to chase Mystique and prevent Magneto from controlling the Earth's magnetic field. Now only Magneto has come, and it has obviously failed. I don't like people taking pictures of me. Magneto waved his hand, and the cameras of the dozen reporters hiding in the X-Fighter broadcasting the live broadcast were all shattered, and the global live broadcast came to an abrupt end. Bring them up. At Magneto's command, Mystique and other Brotherhood mutants soon came to Hawking with Storm and others who were put on special collars. Don't worry, I didn't kill any of them, but the premise is that you can't resist, otherwise they will all die next. Magneto landed in front of Hawking and said with a smile. Hawking raised his eyebrows. How did you subdue them in such a short period of time? I used some weapons invented by humans, and they turned out to be very useful. It's just that your 3 friends who are not mutants are in some trouble. But one of them is afraid of fire and 2 of them are afraid of poison. As long as I trap them for a while, it can be easily solved. Quote. As soon as Magneto raised his hand, a dozen syringes with metal needles appeared around him. You actually cooperated with Hydra. When Hawking saw this, he immediately understood. It doesn't take much thinking to guess that the dozens of syringes with metal needles must contain medicine that can temporarily incapacitate mutants. The collars that Storm and the others wear around their necks are probably collars that can inhibit the abilities of mutants. So when Storm and the others chased after them just now, they must have been ambushed by Magneto. Their bodies were hit by a syringe, and they instantly turned into ordinary people and lost their ability to resist. As for the origin of those potions and collars, they couldn't be from S.H.I.E.L.D., so they naturally came from Hydra. Including the previous weaknesses of Peter, Venom and Jessica, it is estimated that they were also provided by Hydra. They had fought with the Hydra tramplers before, and their battle process should have been simultaneously transmitted to the Hydra base by the Hydra tramplers. No, Hawking, you are wrong, it is not cooperation, just use. After I deal with you and Captain Marvel, I will also destroy all Hydra. In the end, only mutants can survive on the entire Earth. Of course, if you don't resist and run away now, Hawking, I can let your family and friends survive. Quote. Magneto looked sincere. Although Hawking has recovered from a giant ape to a human, Hawking in human form is not weak either. In his opinion, after fighting Tianchi now, Hawking must be in bad condition. If he goes all out, he can definitely defeat Hawking. But he was just afraid that Hawking would escape. If Hawking wanted to escape, he wouldn't be able to stop him. When its strength recovers, it will definitely be a big trouble in the future. So now he can only use his teachers, classmates and friends to threaten Hawking, and at the same time comfort him, so that he can give up his resistance voluntarily so that nothing goes wrong. You have to think clearly. Your current condition is not good and you have no chance of winning. And as long as you run away, I guarantee that none of them will survive. A handful of metal blades flew up, and then floated on the backs of Storm and others' heads. Hawking pretended to sigh. Okay, I promise you. He had just exited the giant ape form, and he was indeed a little weak, and he was not sure about making a move now. It is better to wait and see what happens. It is best to wait until the end of the Goku template. Then you can load the Naruto template and try to solve Magneto. Okay, then stay there and don't move or resist. With a thought, Magneto quickly flew a syringe in front of Hawking, and then injected the medicine inside into Hawking's body. To be on the safe side, after injecting the medicine, he also asked the magic nun to come forward and put a collar and handcuffs on Hawking that inhibited his ability. Hawking, as long as you stay honest, everything I promised you will not change afterwards. Seeing Hawking being brought back by Mystique without any resistance, Magneto suddenly burst into laughter. After dealing with the most difficult Hawking, the next step is Captain Marvel. Once Captain Marvel is dealt with, no one in the world can stop him. Charles is not on the plane. After a while, Mystique came out of the X-Fighter and replied. Juan C. was not surprised by this, he just smiled. If it's not there, it's not there. Before the consciousness was transformed, I injected medicine into his body. He is just an ordinary person now. It will take at least a week to regain his abilities. Within a week, I would have regressed human civilization to the Bronze Age. I believe that he would have to accept it even if he didn't accept it at that time. Quote. It seems that Nightwalker saw that the situation was not good, so he took the professor and hid first. Hawking, who was staying with Storm and others later, heard this and immediately guessed what was going on. Nightcrawler's mission was to rescue the professor and then protect the professor in the X-Fighter. Seeing the situation outside, in order not to be caught by Magneto, he must have teleported with the professor to a relatively safe place. Hawking, it was all our carelessness that caused you trouble. Aurora looked at Hawking, who was also wearing a collar, and couldn't help but sigh. The other mutants also had faces full of self-blame. If he hadn't saved their lives, Hawking would never have been caught. It's okay, don't worry, we won't be sure who the winner is until the end. Hawking blinked when he heard this and showed a comforting face. He is not a mutant, so potions, collars, and handcuffs are naturally of no use to him. He didn't resist because he wanted to relax Magneto's vigilance, delay time, and sit back and watch the fight between tigers and tigers. Magneto wants Hawking to fight Apocalypse to the death, and then reap the benefits. Nick Fury wants to watch mutants fight to the death and reap the benefits. Now that he has killed Apocalypse and been imprisoned by Magneto, Nick Fury will naturally not be watching and will definitely send Captain Marvel to deal with Magneto. So next, it was his turn to watch the battle between Captain Marvel and Magneto leisurely. When the two of them were almost done fighting, he would put the finishing touches on it. Sure enough, after waiting for about 10 minutes, a luminous figure flew over from a distance at super fast speed and landed in front of Magneto. It's Maria Rambeau, the Black Captain Marvel of this universe. Magneto, you are no match for me. It's not too late to surrender now. It's not like she has never fought against Magneto, so she naturally knows what level Magneto is, and he is no match for her at all. Magneto was not surprised at all when he saw Captain Marvel appear. He was waiting for Captain Marvel. Once Captain Marvel was eliminated, no one could stop him. You think I'm still the same person as before? The ability was fully activated, and a large amount of metal gathered around Magneto. Then he waved lightly, and the metal shot towards Captain Marvel like a meteor. After being strengthened by Apocalypse, his abilities have been greatly improved, and he is confident that he can defeat Captain Marvel, and he is not alone. Facing Magneto's attack, Captain Marvel burst out with light energy and attacked directly. She is someone who can even penetrate a Kree battleship, so how can she be afraid of the metals controlled by Magneto? How so? However, when she met those metals, her expression suddenly changed. Compared with the previous battle, Magnetic's attack with controlled metal was obviously much stronger now, and even she couldn't get away for a while. And not only that, after the metal collided with her, it immediately turned into a torrent and entangled her like a python. If it was just a physical entanglement, she could forcefully blast it away with the light energy in her body. But things were not that simple. In addition to the physical restraints, there was actually a strong magnetic field that enveloped her body, restricting her movements and making it difficult for her to move for a while. It's useless. Since I knew you were coming, I had already thought of how to deal with you. The blame lies with your husband, Nick Fury, who is too selfish. If he asked you and Hawking to come together from the beginning, and you worked together to destroy Tianchi, then I really can't deal with you two at the same time. But this is also what I expected. Selfishness is your human nature, and there is no way to change it. Quote, Magneto controlled metal and magnetism and pressed Captain Marvel to the ground, but he was obviously not relaxed. Before long, beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Captain Marvel's power is too strong. Even if his abilities are enhanced, it will be difficult to suppress him for a long time. Captain Marvel has obviously discovered this, and has been using all his strength to burst out the light energy in his body, trying to break free. Magneto, you won't be able to hold on for long. My energy is unlimited. Sooner or later I will be able to break free from your shackles. Although Magneto trapped her, he was protected by the light energy in his body and could not kill her, so it was indeed a stalemate now, but she believed that the other party would never be able to consume her. Victory belongs to her in the end. Magneto laughed loudly when he heard this. You are too naive, Raven, it's your turn to take action. After confirming that Captain Marvel had been completely suppressed, Magneto turned to the side and ordered Mystique. Mystique smiled and walked to the opposite side of Captain Marvel, then activated her power and instantly transformed into Professor X. Give up resistance, give up resistance. Powerful thoughts invaded Captain Marvel's brain, forcing her to give up resistance and put away the light energy in her body. The enhanced Mystique, in addition to being able to transform into anyone, can also possess the abilities of that mutant if that person is still a mutant. It's just that compared to herself, the abilities she gained after transforming will be much weakened. But even so, using it on Captain Marvel alone will still have a big impact. Just like now, under the mental control of Mystique, Captain Marvel's light energy immediately became unstable. Once the light energy is absorbed into Captain Marvel's body, Magneto can kill her immediately. How long will it take to control her to recover the light energy? Seeing Captain Marvel persisting in resisting the mental invasion, Magneto asked with a frown. Mystique replied while trying to conquer Captain Marvel's spirit. She has a strong will. With my current ability, it will take at least half an hour to briefly control her to recover the light energy. Half an hour, okay, then half an hour. Because of Mystique's mental control, Captain Marvel's struggle was obviously much weaker. He was able to hold on for half an hour. At this time, Hawking, who pretended to have lost his ability, relied on his extraordinary five senses to overhear the conversation between Magneto and Mystique. Then I'll wait for you for half an hour. Originally, when he saw Captain Marvel and Magneto in a stalemate, he planned to break free from the handcuffs and sneak up on Magneto, but after hearing this conversation, he changed his mind. By attacking Magneto now, he can indeed rescue Captain Marvel, but Captain Marvel is not on his side, so who knows, he will definitely help him when the time comes. It would be better to wait until half an hour later, when both sides are exhausted, and then make a safe move. It just so happened that the Goku template ended and he could load the Naruto template. After the battle with Apocalypse just now, his physical strength was very exhausted, the effect of loading the Wukong template was no longer effective, and he still had the negative buff of being hungry. It's better to wait until the Goku template ends, load the Naruto template, and use Toad and Kyuubi to help. Half an hour later, seeing that the light energy on Captain Marvel's surface was almost completely absorbed into his body, and Magneto's forehead was covered with cold sweat, Hawking knew that the opportunity had come. Crack! Hawking forcibly broke free of the handcuffs, turned into an afterimage, and rushed towards Magneto as fast as possible. It's over. If it was Magneto before, then in his current state, he would definitely not be able to escape Hawking's sneak attack. But the current Magneto's ability has finally been greatly improved. When Hawking broke into a certain range of his body, he was immediately discovered by the magnetic field he arranged. In order to save his life, he immediately gave up his restraint on Captain Marvel, controlled the metal torrent to come back to protect him, and blocked Hawking's sneak attack. How could you possibly use your powers? After blocking the attack, Magneto looked at Hawking in shock. Unfortunately, it's still quite slow. Seeing that Magneto escaped his attack, in order to avoid being controlled like Captain Marvel, he immediately jumped back and quickly loaded the Naruto template. He separated to communicate with Nine Tails and replied to Magneto. The answer is simple, because I'm not a mutant. You're not a mutant. Hearing Hawking's answer, Magneto was stunned. But then he laughed again. I always thought that you were the most suitable person to succeed me and Charles as the leader of future mutants, but I never expected that you were not a mutant. That's right, except for that guy Apocalypse, I've never seen any mutant have so many abilities. What a shame, to be honest, I've always admired you. Quote. Because the first time he saw Hawking was at the mutant school, and he knew that the professor could identify mutants. So he never doubted that Hawking was not a mutant. Mr. Eric, we have some friendship. Before we start the fight, I want to ask you a question. After hearing Magneto's words, Hawking paused for a few seconds, and then asked. Magneto's next answer will affect his final decision on whether to kill Magneto. Juan C. is the biological father of Wanda and Pietro. Although there is no emotional relationship, there is still a blood relationship. So for Wanda and Pietro's sake, Magneto won't kill Magneto unless he does something too extreme. But if Magneto wanted to kill him, then in order to avoid future troubles, he would have to kill Magneto. He couldn't leave a time bomb around. Okay, you ask. Juan C. nodded. Now that Mystique is controlling Captain Marvel, he needs some time to recover his strength. Since Hawking doesn't take action first, he is naturally happy to take it slow. I want to know what Mr. Eric is going to do if I lose next. Is he really going to kill all humans and leave only mutants? You should know that many humans actually have recessive X genes in their bodies. Even if they cannot awaken their abilities, the next generation may still give birth to mutants. The relationship between humans and mutants is one of constant separation. Quote. Hawking tried. Magneto shook his head. Since they have recessive X genes, it means they have not completed evolution and are inferior products, so there is no need to keep them. After I deal with you and Captain Marvel, I will continue to control the Earth's magnetic field and return human civilization to the Bronze Age. By then, humans will no longer have an advantage when facing mutants. But don't worry, I won't kill all humans, but I can keep all mutants and mutant-related relatives and friends. And you, Hawking, although you are not a mutant, as long as you are not my enemy, considering that your sister and brother are both mutants, and considering that you have done so many things for mutants, I can let you go. You. Quote. Okay, I understand. But sorry, I quite like modern life and don't like going back to the Bronze Age. Quote. After getting the answer he wanted, Hawking stopped talking nonsense, bit his finger and pressed hard. Ninjutsu. Psychic technique. A huge psychic array appeared on the ground, and then 3 giant toads as tall as 10 stories high appeared at his feet. They are none other than the 3 giants of Myoboku Mountain, Gamabunta, Gamatekuru and Gamahiro. Little Hawking, is this the village in your world? It looks a bit deserted. Gamabunta looked at the ruined city around him and inserted the large pipe into his waist. Who is the enemy to be dealt with? Boss Toad, help me stop that old man for a while. He has the ability to escape magnetically like the third cage. You must be careful. Pointing at Magneto in the sky, Hawking formed a seal with his hands and immediately separated dozens of shadow clones, rushing towards Storm and others who were kidnapped by the mutants of the Brotherhood. The Toad boss took out the short knife from his waist and nodded. Don't worry, leave it to us, Gao Jian, Gao Guang, we're on board. Yes, sir. Tomohiro pulled out the two swords from his back, and Takaru took out the pot lid, shield and water chestnut harpoon from his back. The three brothers jumped up and charged towards Magneto. What a big toad! Seeing 3 10-story toads jumping towards him with weapons in hand, Magneto was stunned in the air. It was not that he had never seen a toad before, but he had never seen such a big toad holding a weapon. On the other side, while the 3 Toad brothers were holding Magneto back, Hawking's shadow clones also fought against the remaining Brotherhood mutants. Because there are only dozens of shadow clones, the energy in each shadow clone is sufficient on average. Magic, ninjutsu, and qigong are used one after another. Basically, few mutants can stop him for 2 rounds. Although the mutants in the Brotherhood have all been strengthened by Apocalypse, even if you heat up a piece of shit, it will still be shit. Maybe it is a little stronger against ordinary humans, but against people like Hawking, there is basically no difference. When most of the mutants appeared in front of Hawking's shadow clone, they were knocked down by Hawking before they even had time to react and cast their abilities. Among them, the famous Red Tank is in some trouble. So the Red Tank was dealt with by Hawking himself. He did not choose to meet the opponent's invincible collision head-on. Instead, he first used turtle-style qigong to blast him into the air from the bottom up, and then used his tree-flying skills to project his entire body. It is estimated that when the Red Tank lands, the battle here will be over. After bringing down all the mutants of the Brotherhood, Hawking asked the Shadow Clone to lead everyone to evacuate first, and he returned to the main battlefield. Here, the 3 Toad brothers had been injured by Magneto and forced to return to Miaomu Mountain. However, this was also expected by Hawking. He did not expect the 3 Toad brothers to defeat Magneto, especially the now strengthened Magneto. It's not that the 3 Toad brothers are weak, it's mainly that the 3 brothers suffered a lot when facing Magneto. First of all, the weapons and shields of the 3 are all metal, which basically poses no threat to Magneto. Secondly, Magneto can fly, so it is difficult for the 3 brothers to defeat Magneto. Finally, this is a city. Magneto can control the huge torrent of metal. The 3 brothers can only dodge and become living targets. It's pretty good that I've been able to persist until now. Hawking, since you must go against me, then I can only kill you. After solving the 3 giant toads, Magneto floated in the air and controlled the metal torrent to attack Hawking. Hawking raised his lips. Finally, the communication was successful. Just when Naruto's panel was loading, he separated his spirit, entered the spiritual space, and saw Kyuubi again. Hey, Ninth Llama, how do you think about the conditions we negotiated with you last time? Half a year is too long, once a week. Seeing Hawking appear, Kyuubi immediately stood up and stared at him. Hawking shook his head. No, I'm not Naruto, I can only have 1 hour a day, definitely not once a week. 4 months, I'll let you have some fun. Quote. Since obtaining the Naruto template, Hawking has been chatting and communicating with Kyuubi a lot. The main purpose is to let Kyuubi lend his power to him, and the condition given is that Kyuubi can occasionally come out to show off. What does Kyuubi want most? Of course it's freedom. It was impossible for Naruto to let the 9 Tails break away from the seal and come out. In order to prevent the 9 Tails from affecting Naruto anymore, Konoha also asked Yamato, who was able to use Wood Escape, to follow Naruto to help suppress the 9 Tails' power. But things were different here with Hawking. Hawking promised to open the seal after a while and let it out to move freely for an hour. Because anyway, after the seal is opened, it will return to its original state the second time it is loaded. Hawking has also done experiments to verify this, which is to slightly tear the seal to let some of the power of the 9 Tails leak out. As a result, when it was loaded for the second time, the seal became intact again. The Kyuubi was also fully involved in the experiment, so when it was in Naruto's body, it kept attacking Naruto's seal, using its own chakra to open the seal bit by bit, hoping to one day be free. But when it arrived at Hawking's place, it simply collapsed, and it was useless to open it anyway. Until Hawking discussed the matter with it. 4 months is too long, kid. I have lent all my strength to you to cooperate with you in the battle. 3 weeks, no more. Quote, 9 Llama, you have to know how many years you have been imprisoned. It seems that Naruto only came out once when he was born, and was still controlled by the Uchiha clan, and was sealed not long after. I can let you relax for an hour, a full hour. As long as you don't kill people or cause destruction during this hour, you can do whatever you want. That's the taste of freedom. 2 months, let you out once every 2 months, this is my bottom line. Quote. Hawking replied confidently. The Kyuubi spun around in its cell and began to get into a tangled state. It longed for freedom so much that it spent every day in a small cell, moving from one generation of Jinchuriki to another. Naruto still doesn't know how long it will take to break the seal. It really wants to run outside freely. Finally, it seemed to have made a decision. It put 2 paws on the cell and said, once a month I will agree immediately. Make a deal. Hawking immediately grinned and nodded. In fact, if Kyuubi insists, he can accept it once every 3 weeks. Anyway, it is only an hour at a time. Forehead. Hearing that Hawking agreed so readily, Juwei was stunned for a moment, and he couldn't help but feel a trace of regret in his heart. Maybe it was not impossible for him to persist for 3 weeks just now. However, as a proud Kyuubi, it will not be as dishonest as humans. Since it has agreed, it will naturally not go back on its words. In fact, in addition to being able to get out of the cage, there is another very important reason why it is willing to cooperate with Hawking. It's just that it didn't feel any hatred, fear or disgust for it from Hawking, which made it feel a little different about Hawking. For thousands of years, it has suffered from war, hatred and betrayal, and has almost become a collection of hatred, so it is the most able to sense human malice. Then let's get started. Hawking walked to the sealed cell door, reached out to grab the seal, and then used all his spiritual power to open it bit by bit. The Bagua seal is a top-notch sealing technique developed by the 4th Hokage based on the 4-symbol seal principle, which can firmly seal the powerful 9 tails in Naruto's body. It is almost impossible to break the seal from the inside, but it is much easier from the outside. Hawking doesn't know the sealing technique, but he can rely on his strong mental power and the 9 tails inside to forcefully tear open the seal bit by bit. Just a little bit closer. As most of the sealing paper on the door was removed, the sealing technique on Hawking's stomach also turned into ink and gradually collapsed. However, just when Hawking was about to completely lift the seal of the gossip, a hand suddenly appeared and grabbed him. Naruto, no. Hawking turned his head and looked, and a man with golden hair like Naruto and clothes with the 4th Hokage written on his body appeared next to him. I almost forgot, in addition to half of the Kyuubi and the Bagua seal, Naruto also has the chakra of Minato and Kushina. When Minato sealed half of the 9 tails in Naruto, he also sealed part of his and Kushina's chakra in Naruto. Once Naruto's seal is about to be broken open by Kyuubi, he will appear to re-strengthen the seal to prevent Kyuubi from escaping. Similarly, once Naruto's spirit is about to be completely occupied by the 9 tails, Kushina's chakra will awaken and use the Uzumaki clan's unique King Kong blockade to help Naruto subdue the 9 tails. I'm sorry, I'm not your son Naruto. Naruto's seal is very complete. I need Kyuubi's help now. Let's talk next time if we have a chance. Reaching out to open the water door, Hawking ripped open the seal. Minato was confused by Hawking's answer. If it wasn't Naruto, how could the Kyuubi be in his body? Why was his Bagua seal also there? What did it mean that Naruto's seal was complete? Kyuubi, lend me your power. The seal was completely torn open, the door was opened, and Hawking raised his fist towards Kyuubi. Juwei also raised his paws and touched Hawking's fist. Hawking, remember your promise, once a month. What exactly is going on? Minato, who was standing aside, was also confused when he saw this. At this time, outside the body, watching the torrent of metal that Magneto shot at him, Hawking shouted, and the huge 9-tailed chakra immediately poured into his body. The fatigue from the previous battle with Apocalypse was swept away, and the surface of his body changed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was covered by the huge 9-tailed chakra, transforming into a 9-tailed incarnation that was 70 meters tall. Hold it to me. 9 huge fox tails quickly stretched out from behind, forming a defense in front, blocking all of Magneto's metal torrent. Eat my tailed beast jade. Opening his mouth, a black-tailed beast jade with a diameter of more than 10 meters quickly formed. The tailed beast jade is the most destructive move of the tailed beasts. It is the ultimate expression of the change of chakra form. It can explode a mountain with one shot. As the strongest tailed beast, the 9-tailed beast, even if there is only half of it, its tailed beast jade is much more powerful than other tailed beasts. The key is that the 9 tails chakra is so huge that many people think it has unlimited chakra, so as long as it thinks about it, its tailed beast jade can be fired continuously. Boom! The powerful tailed beast jade collided with the metal torrent, and the metal torrent was immediately smashed into pieces. Who the hell are you? Seeing Hawking turn into a huge fox, Magneto, who was floating in midair, was completely confused. Before, he transformed into a giant ape and killed Apocalypse. He finally cut off his tail in a sneak attack, and now he has transformed into a bigger fox. Do we need to cut off 9 more tails to make Hawking change back? However, he had no time to think at all. After the metal torrent was dispersed, less than half of it was gathered when the second black energy ball came up again. Then came the third, fourth, and fifth. When it came to the sixth, he finally couldn't hold on anymore. The energy was too strong, and he had nosebleeds after the shock. He could control the magnetic field and metal for defense, but he was not as perverted as Apocalypse and could not withstand this kind of continuous impact. At the same time, he also discovered that Mystique, who was controlling Captain Marvel below, seemed to be unable to hold on. Mystique is not the real Professor X after all. It is not easy to reach this point. It seems that I can only withdraw first. I still underestimated Hawking. I didn't expect that he actually hid such a trump card. After blocking the 6th one, Hawking's giant fox began to gather the 7th energy ball again. Magneto knew that he could no longer hesitate. Otherwise, once Captain Marvel wakes up, it will be 1 against 2, and he won't even be able to escape. Want to escape? Being within the scope of the 9-tailed chakra, Hawking's 5 senses were not blocked. Instead, because of the blessing of the 9-tailed chakra, they became particularly sharp, and he could clearly sense that Magneto over there had already intended to retreat. Kyuubi chakra mode. Shrinking the huge 9 tails chakra outside, the 70-meter tall 9 tails quickly shrank, and then turned into a golden red chakra coat, which was worn on Hawking's body. The art of multiple shadow clones. The seal separated 4 shadow clones, just like how they had surrounded and suppressed Tianchi before. Hawking's body and 4 shadow clones quickly caught up with Magneto and surrounded him. Mr. Eric, you have reached the end of the battle until now. If you still don't surrender, you will be greeted by the fate of the previous Apocalypse. After the previous consumption with Captain Marvel, coupled with his continuous tailed beast jade bombing, Magneto is now out of breath, and his ability to control magnetic fields and metals has reached a low point. It's just that Magneto obviously didn't intend to sit still and wait for death. He used his last strength to explode all the magnetic fields around him, forced a gap to encircle him, and flew away with all his strength. However, how could Hawking let Magneto escape? Now that Magneto has escaped, he doesn't know what trouble will happen next time. So his body, together with 4 shadow clones, stretched out red 9-tailed chakra arms at the same time, wrapping around Magneto like a python and pulling him back alive. It's time to bring this farce to a perfect end. With the blessing of the 9-tailed coat, Hawking relied on brute force to tear apart the magnetic field on the surface of Magneto. Then he picked up the syringe left on the ground and gave Magneto a shot, then put a collar on him that inhibited mutant abilities. I lost. I didn't expect that after all my calculations, I lost to you in the end. Magneto, who was forcibly injected with medicine and put on a collar, had now turned into an ordinary old man, with a look of loneliness on his face. Kill me, but I hope you can let the rest of the Brotherhood go. Without me, they won't cause any trouble. He knew that Hawking was not a soft-hearted person like Professor. He just hopes that Hawking can let go of the other mutants in the Brotherhood, who are all hopes for the future against humanity. I won't kill you, nor will I kill your subordinates, but you will spend the rest of your lives in school under the supervision of professors. Hawking reached out and took off Magneto's helmet that could prevent the intrusion of thoughts. According to his character, To deal with someone like Magneto, it is of course easiest to kill him directly. However, given that Magneto is the biological father of Wanda and Pietro, and has a very deep friendship with Professor X, plus his answer just now, he decided to let Magneto survive. But just letting Magneto leave is absolutely impossible. He left it to the government to look after him. On the one hand, he didn't believe that the government could handle it. On the other hand, he was also afraid that some people with ulterior motives would use Magneto and his men for experiments. So after much deliberation, I might as well just imprison them all in a mutant school. Without a helmet that can resist mental invasion, Professor X can immobilize Magneto and his men at any time, making it impossible for them to leave the school at all. Moreover, there are collars that can inhibit their mutant abilities. It just so happened that maybe it will be useful somewhere in the future. Ah! At this moment, Captain Marvel yelled below, and the light energy in her body exploded. Mystique, who transformed into Professor X, immediately vomited a mouthful of blood, and then returned to her original appearance. Apparently Mystique can no longer control Captain Marvel. Magneto Hawking, Captain Marvel, who broke free from Mystique's mental control, was just about to settle the score with Magneto when he discovered that Hawking in the nine-tailed chakra mode had flown down with the captured Magneto. Long time no see, Captain Maria. I've taken care of the things here, so I won't bother S.H.I.E.L.D. to worry about it. Don't you still have to deal with Hydra's terrorist attacks? Go back quickly. I rushed over as soon as I received Fury's notice. Unexpectedly, I couldn't help much. Hearing Hawking's words, Captain Marvel showed an embarrassed look on his face. He was originally going to come to the rescue, but unexpectedly it had no effect. If Hawking hadn't taken action, he would have been almost killed by Magneto. But before I came here, I had informed Director Fury of the situation here. I originally thought that Captain Maria would fight alongside me, but I didn't expect that in the end I would have to fight alone with a narrow escape. A hint of sarcasm appeared on Hawking's face, and Captain Marvel's face became even more embarrassed. She really didn't know what was happening here, but through Magneto's words before and now Hawking's words, she had already noticed the little thoughts of her husband Nick Fury. She knew Nick Fury and knew that Magneto and Hawking had not wronged Nick Fury. Then I'll leave first. If you need anything, you can contact Nick Fury. He will send someone to handle the finishing work. Leaving behind a word, Captain Marvel immediately flew away as if running away. In fact, according to the procedure, she should take Magneto and his men back to S.H.I.E.L.D. for detention, but now she is too shameless to say this to Hawking, so she can only withdraw first. Restored to the original condition. Let the previous Shadow clones bring Storm and others back, take off the mutant suppressors from their necks, and bring them all to the mutants of the Brotherhood. Hawking used the repair spell to repair the camera and continued the global live broadcast. The audience in front of the TV also saw the scene in Cairo at this time again. I just saw Mr. Flash show off his power and transform into Donkey Kong to defeat Apocalypse. Before everyone could be happy, the entire screen went dark, and they didn't know what happened next. Now it's finally on again. Dear viewers, I am Eddie, the reporter of the Daily Bugle. Some accidents just happened. Now, under the leadership of Mr. Flash, all have been resolved. This crisis that may have destroyed the entire human race has also dissipated. Now let's interview Mr. Flash. May I ask Mr. Flash, who is the Apocalypse who brought crisis to mankind this time? Quote. Eddie, who resumed his identity as a reporter, handed the microphone to Hawking, who once again put on the golden armor. When he was fighting as Venom before, he felt quite tormented when he saw reporters from other newspapers getting such big news. Fortunately, with Hawking's consent, he can resume his status as a reporter and conduct post-war interviews. This Apocalypse, according to our investigation, is an evil god who ruled Egypt 5,000 years ago. Now that he has awakened, he wants to destroy human civilization and return to his slave rule. Hawking replied calmly, now that the incident has just ended and the popularity is at its highest, we should set the tone of the matter so that we can have better public relations later. If Apocalypse is a mutant, it will definitely have a negative impact on mutants, so he should simply be named an evil god. No one can confirm this anyway. Evil god, do gods really exist in this world? Eddie asked according to the arranged plot. Hawking nodded. Of course they exist, but gods are not as illusory as everyone thinks. They may be some kind of powerful creatures that existed a long time ago, or they may be the product of accidental genetic mutations, or even aliens from alien planets. Just because human civilization in ancient times had not yet developed, they recognized them as gods. Some of these gods may be sleeping in a corner of the earth, some may live on their own planets in outer space, and some may be among humans. Quote, he explained these things to let everyone understand that existences like apocalypse may appear in the future, but human beings' current weapons cannot cope with them, and they need superheroes like them. This does not mean that League of Legends International will not be important after this time. So I still hope that for the sake of the entire Earth, those with special abilities will actively join us and let us fight to protect the Earth together. Next, our League of Legends company will introduce a League of Legends grading system. Based on ability evaluation, the superheroes who join will be from F level to S level. Superheroes of different levels can perform different tasks to better protect everyone's safety. Quote, with Mr. Flash leading the superheroes to protect the Earth, I believe that even those so-called gods will not be a problem. But I would like to ask, Mr. Flash, where does your ability come from? Is it from an accident like Spider-Man and Flying Knight, or is it like Storm and Cyclops, born as a mutant? I think the viewers in front of the TV must really want to know this question. Quote, Eddie continued to ask. As soon as he asked this question, everyone watching the live broadcast nodded subconsciously. When Hawking was fighting Apocalypse, he showed such great strength that he could even transform into Donkey Kong. How could they not be curious? Actually, it's neither. I'm neither a mutant nor did I gain abilities by accident. The reason why I have so many abilities is because I am not a human, but a Saiyan. I come from a distant planet called Planet Vegeta. My planet was destroyed due to special reasons, and I was the only survivor. I was sent to the Earth by a spaceship as soon as I was born, and I have been living until now. Quote, Hawking smiled and said the lines he had thought of. His identity has always been a mystery. It is impossible to say that he is a human being, and it is not possible to say that he is a mutant. It is better to just say that he is an alien, which can explain clearly why he is so strong. Anyway, it is impossible for everyone to go to alien planets to seek confirmation, and this character cannot be destroyed. Of course, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that he must use this identity to pave the way for the future. Mr. Flash, your experience reminds me of Superman. You are also from an alien planet, you also grew up on the Earth, and you also fight to protect the Earth. I always thought Superman was a comic book, but I never thought he actually existed in reality. You are our real Saiyan Superman. Quote, Eddie said in an excited tone. Hawking immediately waved his hand modestly. I'm not as powerful as Superman, but I will do my best to protect the Earth and humanity with all the superheroes like Superman. As I just said, many gods in human legends are aliens. For example, Odin, the father of the gods in mythology, Thor, the god of thunder, and Loki, the god of lies, actually exist. They live in distant Asgard and have visited the Earth before, leaving legends on the Earth and becoming gods in human mythology. Quote, in a few years, Thor and Loki will come to Earth to confirm his words, and then humans will trust him and the League of Legends company even more. I didn't expect it to be like this. Mr. Flash, can you reveal more relevant information to us? Eddie handed the microphone to Hawking again. Hawking smiled. These are basic common sense that I have in my memory since I was born. If you are interested in knowing more, I can do an exclusive interview next time and tell you the relevant information. Don't worry, everyone, not all gods are as evil as Apocalypse, and please believe that our superheroes from the League of Legends company are not afraid of any gods. Okay, that's it for today. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Quote, with a blessing, Hawking completely ended the global live broadcast and took everyone back to New York on the X-Fighter. As for the follow-up chores in Cairo, they were left to S.H.I.E.L.D. and the local government. He still had to rush back to have Christmas dinner with his family to prepare for the company's large-scale expansion after Christmas. Before the plane departed, Nightcrawler, who had been hiding in the ruins with Professor X, also took the professor back to the fighter plane. Therefore, this mission can be regarded as a successful completion. Professor X was rescued, Apocalypse was killed, Magneto was arrested, and the League of Legends was promoted from New York to the world. On the X-Fighter returning to New York, Hawking took the time to open his own panel. Sure enough, this apocalypse event, the justice value of saving human civilization, directly filled up his progress bar, giving him an opportunity to draw new templates. I'll smoke again when I get home. After confirming that the progress bar was full, he was not in a hurry to draw a new template now, but decided to wait until he got home and calmed down before drawing properly. These protagonist templates can not only bring him new blood talents and knowledge, but can also greatly improve his own strength at critical times. If he only relied on his current combat power of more than 200, he would definitely not be able to defeat Apocalypse and Magneto this time. Hawking, are you really from another planet? At 11 o'clock in the evening, after the X-Fighter landed at the mutant school, Professor X, who woke up, retained Hawking. Hawking shook his head. Of course not, but I am indeed not a mutant. Then why do you say that you are from an alien planet? If you do this, I am afraid that many high-level officials in the country will be restless. Professor X showed a trace of sadness on his face. He has lived for so many years, and he knows the high-level people of the human government very well, and he knows how they behave. Even if they are mutants, the human government is full of suspicion, let alone Hawking saying that he is an alien. An alien will lead a large number of superpowers in the future. Even if Hawking saves the Earth and human civilization, they will not be able to trust Hawking. Hawking smiled when he heard this. I know, I did it on purpose. Professor, you should know that even if I am a human being and I am a person who gained superpowers due to an accident, do you think that after this incident, the top brass of the human government will really trust me? How could he not know what the professor said? Superman is so devoted to humanity, yet he will face all kinds of suspicion and difficulties from the human government because of his identity as an alien, let alone him. In fact, he had already thought about it clearly. No matter what his identity is, with his current strength as a humanoid nuclear bomb, and the fact that he will inevitably gather a large number of superpowers in the future, the top management of the human government will not sit idly by and let him develop. In fact, their thoughts are no different from Nick Fury's. They will definitely use various methods and various reasons to get Hawking and his League of Legends company into their hands. And will Hawking let them get their wish? Of course it's impossible. So conflict is impossible to avoid. Instead of doing this, just change your identity to an alien. First, he described his identity and experience as similar to Superman, which can easily make the public think of Superman. In addition, he almost sacrificed himself to save the Earth and the human people, which makes him even more worthy of the public's trust. In this way, once the government plays various tricks on him, it will be easy for the public to think of Superman's experience. At least public opinion will not be manipulated by the government one-sidedly. Second, he needs to give the higher-ups of the human government an excuse to quickly attack him, and the identity of the alien is a good excuse. If he is a human and has made such a great contribution, the top leaders of the human government must not be able to attack him now. They must have chosen to use various methods to get rid of him. But now that he is an alien, the other party can use this as an opportunity to attack him. Otherwise, once the public gets used to his identity, this excuse will not work. And he just wants to take advantage of the fact that now is the time when the popularity is the highest and the public is most grateful to him, to resolve the matter with the top brass of the human government. Strive to solve all the problems at once, and then practice with peace of mind, so as to avoid accidents in the next 3 days. Third, with his current strength, there is no need to fear anything from the top government officials. Professor, but Nick Fury shouldn't be stupid. After seeing him fight Apocalypse, does he still have confidence that Captain Marvel can hold the place? Now it is no longer the 3 pillars of the past, but one is the only one. S.H.I.E.L.D's strength has been greatly reduced due to Hydra, and it will continue to deal with Hydra's harassment in the future. Magneto and the mutants of the Brotherhood are all under their custody. If they want to fall out and fight the human government, I believe that Magneto and the mutants of the Brotherhood will definitely be willing to help. Hawking's strength is that strong again. The top leaders of human governments will make mistakes, and Nick Fury will not follow suit. The most important thing is that Hawking is not Superman and will not be merciful. When faced with high-level human governments who want to take action against him, he will not convince others with virtue like Superman. He will make them understand that in the face of absolute strength, all conspiracies and tricks are in vain. He will not interfere with human political power or control human beings, but if any high-level person wants to deal with him, he will send that person to hell and then let the next person take over. There are many deaths, but there are always smart people who know how to be afraid of them, and are willing to get along well with them, so that they can practice with peace of mind and do good deeds. But the prerequisite for this is that the top management of the human government must attack first. In this way, it is legitimate defense, but at most it is excessive defense, which everyone can understand in the future. You are right, but I still hope that we can correctly guide mankind onto the right path instead of hating each other. Professor X couldn't help but sigh. He was worried that Hawking would take drastic actions after being challenged by high-level human government officials. Professor, please rest assured. My original intention in establishing League of Legends International Corporation is to allow humans and mutants to live in harmony in the future and to allow the public to recognize mutants. I believe that after today, this goal will be achieved soon. So I won't do anything drastic. Of course, I will definitely use some means to deal with certain high-level human beings who are targeting us. Professor, we can't be as radical as Magneto, but we can't be too weak. Otherwise we will end up becoming a tool in their hands, and we will really be farther and farther away from the goal. Quote. Hawking replied firmly, superheroes such as Iron Man, the Hulk, and the Fantastic Four have not yet been born, and Thor has not come to Earth. The only ancient one who can truly crush him is an old salted fish. Unless the Earth is destroyed and dimensional creatures invade, we will not take action on such a trivial matter. So now is the best time for him to display his skills without any scruples and beat the human government so hard that they won't dare to have any small thoughts in the next few years. Besides, he believed that this was a just thing. He established the League of Legends Company and recruited a large number of superpowers and mutants to do good things. If someone stops him, then he kills those people. Isn't this a just thing? Coincidentally, now all the nuclear weapons of various countries have been launched into space by Professor X, controlled by Apocalypse. He is even less afraid. Now, except for nuclear weapons, ordinary modern weapons cannot hurt him. Hawking, you have always done well, even better than I have done all these years combined. If you feel that mutants and humans can truly live in peace by using some means, then go for it. When I get old, I will always stay in school and take good care of Eric and the others. Quote. Hearing the firmness in Hawking's tone, Professor X was silent for a long time and finally nodded. The fact that Apocalypse almost took away his ability this time also made him understand that he was getting old. Since Hawking can do better, let Hawking do it. Moreover, Hawking's identity as an alien also has an advantage. When he leads human superpowers in the future, mutants will not think that Hawking is biased towards humans, nor will humans think that Hawking is biased towards mutants. While Hawking was talking to Professor X, Nick Fury was also holding an emergency meeting with all members of the Security Council at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. I don't agree with this. Hawking is different from Professor X. This will only annoy him. Nick Fury objected, slamming the table. But those members of the Security Council representing various countries obviously did not care about Nick Fury's reaction, but said directly, Director Fury, this is not a discussion with you, this is an order. Hawking must sign the agreement we have set and be subject to our supervision, otherwise his League of Legends International Company will be dissolved immediately, and he will no longer be allowed to use his abilities to do other things. Quote. He just saved the world in the eyes of the world. Now if we do this, the people will not agree. Nick Fury tries to change the minds of these stupid Security Council members. Do they still think Hawking will be as easy to handle as Professor X? If he is unwilling to submit, he will say that he doubts his purpose of coming to Earth as an alien and needs his cooperation in the investigation. If he does not cooperate, then he wants to become an enemy of the entire human race on Earth. As long as the public can control public opinion, the trend will soon change. And according to your report, it will take at least a week for the mutants in the mutant school to regain their abilities. Now is the best time to control him. Nick Fury, you have to know that because of your mistakes, there were such big mistakes in S.H.I.E.L.D. If you can no longer complete this task, then we will have to consider whether it is still necessary to continue funding S.H.I.E.L.D. Quote. Council members gave Nick Fury an ultimatum. When Nick Fury heard this, veins jumped in his forehead, but in the end he bit his head and nodded. I will go and talk to him in person tomorrow. All funds for SHIELD come from the various countries of the Security Council. The purpose is to create an organization that can protect the entire world and deal with various abnormal affairs. So if the Council is unwilling to provide funding, then SHIELD will be paralyzed. What happened at home? After the conversation with Professor X, Hawking quickly returned home. As soon as he opened the door, he saw that the whole house was in a mess, as if it had been destroyed by a tornado. Fortunately, Oleg, Elena, Wanda and Pietro are all fine. Wanda's ability just got out of control, so it became like this. Seeing Hawking's return, Pietro asked excitedly, "Hawking, is Professor Aurora looking for you because of the battle on TV? Have you been there? I didn't see you on TV. Were you in the fighter plane?" "No, Professor Aurora asked me to go back and help take care of and protect the students who are staying in school. I have been staying at the school and will not leave until the professors and others come back." Seeing the nervous expressions on Oleg and Elena's faces, Hawking hurriedly explained. He didn't want Oleg and Elena to know too much, because they wouldn't be able to help, and instead they would be frightened. "By the way, Wanda, how could you lose control of your abilities?" Afraid that Oleg and Elena would ask more questions, Hawking quickly changed the topic and looked at Wanda. Wanda stared at Hawking closely and replied, "I was just too nervous and a little emotional after watching the report on TV." "That's okay, just calm down and you'll be fine. You should pay more attention to controlling your emotions next time." Hawking nodded. Wanda's ability was easily affected by emotions, which was normal. Restored to the original condition. Raising his hand a little, he began to use the repair spell to restore the messed up room. It was only after he recovered that he discovered that the dishes on the restaurant table were all in good condition and untouched. "Have you not had dinner yet?" "No, I originally wanted to wait for you to come back to eat, but I didn't know until I watched TV that such a big thing happened. I saw all the teachers from your school on TV, and I was worried about your situation, so I haven't eaten." Oleg explained with a smile. "Since everything is fine, let's eat. It's almost 12 o'clock, so we're probably all hungry." "Eat, eat." Pietro ran the fastest and was sitting on the dining table in the blink of an eye. Then came Oleg and Elena, who wanted to heat up some dishes on the table. Finally, there was Hawking, who had just entered, and Wanda, who was deliberately left at the end. Snapped. Wanda slapped Hawking's butt with her hand, then touched it back and forth, stared at Hawking and asked in a low voice with narrowed eyes. "Hawking, tell me, why is your tail gone? You little clever guy." "Okay, it's just as you guessed. Hurry up and eat. I'll tell you after you finish eating." Hawking took Wanda's hand away, pinched her face and said helplessly. He hasn't told Wanda or Pietro about the company or him being a superhero. But Wanda basically accompanies him for gravity training every night, so she naturally knows him better than anyone else. So I guessed the answer while watching the live broadcast. In fact, it's not difficult to guess if you think about it carefully. He was called away by Storm, and Wanda had seen all of his basic moves, including turning into a gorilla and having his tail cut off, etc. As expected, it's you. Okay, I'll settle the score with you after dinner. After hearing Hawking's answer, Wanda moved the hand that just touched Hawking's butt and murmured secretly, "It feels good." After dinner, Hawking quietly entered Wanda's room and talked to Wanda about his creation of League of Legends and some subsequent matters. In exchange for spending a few days alone with him shopping for clothes, he obtained his promise to keep the secret and not tell Oleg and Elena. After finishing Wanda, he took a shower and changed clothes, and started extracting new templates. The drawing started. The drawing is over. The protagonist template drawn this time is Kurosaki Ichigo, a 15-year-old from the Bleach world. It's actually the god of death. Seeing the results of his extraction, Hawking showed a thoughtful look on his face. But soon he laughed. That's not bad. Although the destructive power of death cannot be like that of Dragon Balls, which can explode stars at every turn, it is a soul power system that can just make up for his shortcomings in this aspect. And the stronger the soul, the more powerful the magic he can cast will inevitably increase significantly. Especially the protagonist of Death, Kurosaki Ichigo, is different from the protagonists in other stories. He was born with the power of death, the power of Quincy, the power of Hollow and the ability of the perfection technique. The power in his body is complete in itself, all that is needed is to develop these powers, so not much time is wasted at all. Let's see where the memory stays first. He temporarily left home and came to the roof of a building, and next to him was a bright moon. But now he doesn't have to worry about transforming into a giant ape, because his tail has been cut off by Magneto in a sneak attack, and it will probably take some time to grow back. Regarding the transformation of a giant ape, he remembered that the condition for a Saiyan to transform into a giant ape is to receive Brut's waves. When the Brut's wave energy exceeds 1700W, he will transform into a giant ape. When the moon happens to be full, it can emit more than 1700W of Brut's wave energy, so Saiyans can transform into a giant ape when they see the full moon. In order to be able to transform into a giant ape at any time and greatly improve their combat effectiveness when they invade the planet, the Saiyans have developed a method to use the energy in their own bodies to create a temporary fake moon that can emit Brut's wave energy. Vegeta used this to complete his giant ape transformation when he invaded Earth for the first time. Therefore, he also decided that after asking Mr. Fantastic to develop a gravity device, he would also spend more time studying the moon to see if he could make a device that emits Brut's wave energy. Or maybe he can research some information and give him a reference to see if he can develop a fake moon similar to Vegeta's. In this way, you no longer need to wait for the full moon to transform into a giant ape in the future. However, the first task is to improve the basic combat power and master the Super Saiyan form as early as possible. Although the giant ape is strong, it also has many weaknesses. Once its tail is cut, it immediately returns to its original shape, and its combat power is far less improved than in the Super Saiyan form. Load Kurosaki Ichigo template. Standing on the roof of the building, Hawking closed his eyes to load a new template and began to quickly browse Ichigo Kurosaki's memories. There is nothing much to say about the first 15 years. The main point is that after meeting Rukia, he transformed into a god of death for the first time, defeated the Hollow for the first time, purified the soul for the first time, and then trained to save Rukia. Solution: virtualization. In the end, he transformed into Crescent Moon, struck the final Crescent Moon, and lost the power of death. Opening his eyes, Hawking's soul was shocked. He was wearing a Death Tyrant costume, holding his Zanpakuto, and separated from his body. This can be regarded as my soul leaving the body. After waving the Zanpakuto in his hand and feeling the completely different feeling in the Death God state, Hawking shouted, "Shiji!" The big knife in his hand immediately changed its appearance, turning into a Zanpakuto wrapped in a white cloth, like a large kitchen knife. At the same time, he clearly felt that his soul power had increased significantly. Wanji. With another soft drink, the Zanpakuto's style changed again, turning into a very handsome pure black long sword. At the same time, he felt that his soul power increased significantly in an instant. Crescent Moon Chong. Standing on the roof of the building, Hawking waved his hand in the direction of the moon, and a black crescent-shaped energy burst out. The power is not bad, but compared to the Turtle School Qigong, it is far inferior. The energy fluctuations of Yu Ya Tian Chong are not weak, but they are definitely not as good as the Turtle School Qigong, but it also has its advantages, that is, it is a special power and has miraculous effects on souls and other beings. This point is incomparable to Turtle School Qigong. Hey, this scene feels weird. Standing on the roof of the building, with a bright moon next to me, and myself releasing the Crescent Moon Celestial Chong, I always felt a little awkward. However, he didn't think much about it and continued the experiment. Shunpo. With a flash of his soul, his figure had appeared on the roof of the building next door. It is similar to the instant body technique. Shunpo is one of the 4 basic abilities of the Shinigami. It is a skill to move the body quickly and instantaneously. The higher the spiritual pressure, the faster the speed and the farther the single-step distance. The teleportation technique is a ninjutsu that uses chakra to stimulate the body to move at high speeds. Using Shunbu again to return to the building where his body was, Hawking raised his hand and moved forward. Smoke billows. In an instant, thick fog rose throughout the Bronx where he was. This effect has improved so much. Looking at the heavy fog rising around him, Hawking's eyes lit up. You must know that even if Harry's template is loaded, with the superposition of blood, the smoke screen spell can only cover 100 meters in heavy fog. However, now in the Wanji state, it is actually possible to make an entire area covered by heavy fog. And now that he is a soul body, he does not use an adamantium alloy rod or a magic ring that acts like a wand, which is equivalent to casting spells without a wand. In that case, let's try the final form. After brewing for a while, he shouted loudly. Crescent moon. He saw the Zanpakuto Tensuo Zanjetsu in his hand stretching out a black chain to entangle with his soul, and then the entire Zanpakuto gradually melted and merged with his soul. His yellow hair, which was originally the same as Kurosaki Ichigo's, turned into long black hair, and his death god uniform turned into black bandages. This is the strongest form of Ichigo Kurosaki during the decisive battle with Aizen. He completely merged himself with the Zanpakuto, and his strength was greatly improved. However, it can only be used once, and after using it, he will lose his power of death. But Hawking is not worried about this. Anyway, he is loading the Kurosaki Ichigo template. Even if he loses the power of death, it is only this time. He will have it again the next time he loads it. He wanted to test how far the soul could be strengthened by taking the power of the god of death to its extreme. This feeling is really beyond my expectation. Transforming into the crescent moon form, Hawking felt that his entire soul had been elevated to an unimaginable level, far beyond his previous expectations. That is not just an improvement in strength, but an essential sublimation. It was as if his original soul was human, but after transforming into the crescent moon form, his soul directly broke through the human category and sublimated to the divine category. At the same time, the strength in this state was somewhat beyond his expectations. He felt that he could cut off a mountain with just a wave of his hand, which was not much weaker than the previous Nine Tails chakra mode. Smoke screen. Casting the smoke screen spell again in the crescent moon state, the entire New York City instantly became filled with heavy fog. Sure enough, the power of magic has increased again. The experiment ended and Hawking's soul returned to his body. He felt that if he cast a fire spell in that state just now, the effect would probably be no worse than Dumbledore's Vulcan clearance. Compared with top wizards such as Dumbledore and Grindelwald, his magic level is definitely far behind, but his soul in crescent moon form is too strong. He is so powerful that with his current level of magic, the magic he can cast is no worse than Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Of course, this only means that after loading the Kurosaki Ichigo template, the final crescent moon form of the fused Zanpakuto can have such a good effect. But even if the protagonist template fades away, with those memories and Kurosaki Ichigo's bloodline, he will probably be able to reach the level of the protagonist template soon by practicing on his own. After all, it actually only took Ichigo Kurosaki a few months from becoming a Shinigami to defeating Aizen. At the end of an hour, Kurosaki Ichigo's template receded, and Hawking's soul left the body again. This time he was in the normal form of a Shinigami, and his Zanpakuto was also the most primitive Zanpakuto. It seems that in the future I will have to think hard about the art of completion. Returning to his physical body, Hawking's figure flashed and he had left the building. The form of the death god cannot be seen by ordinary people, but only the power and magic of the death god system can be used to fight. If you figure out the perfection technique, you can fight together with your physical body. Only in this way can he exert his strongest combat effectiveness. As for how to practice the perfection technique, the power itself is within his body. If he goes back and thinks more about the plot of the Shinigami in his previous life, he should be able to slowly figure it out. The next day, Hawking separated several shadow clones early in the morning and asked them to handle the company's affairs on his behalf. After last night's battle, League of Legends International Company has definitely exploded. Taking advantage of this wave of popularity, we must seize the time to expand, accept interviews, etc. Some specific matters will be handled by the company's public relations department, but as a superhero, he will definitely be present as the Saiyan Superman who defeated Apocalypse and saved the world. But he was unwilling to waste the precious time spent on improving his strength and spending time with his family on these things. So all the shadow clones were sent to solve it. He clearly understands that no matter how big the company is, his strength is the most important. He is not strong enough to suppress those superheroes, nor can he deal with the suppression from the top levels of the human government. So on the first day after the war, he spent most of his time with his family and adapting to the power brought by Ichigo Kurosaki based on his memories. As evening approached, an unexpected person appeared at his door. "Hey, isn't this Director Fury?" Why didn't you deal with the terrorist attack caused by Hydra and came to my side? When he opened the door and saw the black face of Nick Fury, Hawking greeted with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. As for Nick Fury's thick skin, he obviously belongs to the kind that can be stabbed 3 times without leaving a mark. There is no embarrassment similar to Captain Marvel before, but he has a calm face. What happened last night was indeed a mistake on my part, so I came here this time to tell you important information. I hope I can make some amends. Make up. Hawking raised his eyebrows and suddenly had some guesses in his mind. He nodded. Okay, then let's go to your car and talk slowly. The two sat in the black van specially made by the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. Without any nonsense, Nick Fury said directly. All members of the Security Council have been asking you to sign an agreement to accept their supervision. Otherwise, they will make a fuss about being an alien, hinder the development of your company, and use various means to deal with you. Quote, I don't understand this. Director Fury, you should be from the Security Council. How could you tell me such important information in advance? Or are you their representative, here to persuade me to sign the so-called supervision agreement? Quote, Hawking smiled and did not seem to be angry at all because of this information. Nick Fury spread his hands. They asked me to come to you to sign the agreement, but I don't agree with their concept and I don't think you should sign this agreement. This is strange. Director Fury, can you tell me why? Hawking asked flatly. Nick Fury looked into Hawking's eyes. If I know correctly, Mr. Hawking, you should not be an alien. Hearing Nick Fury's affirmative tone, Hawking's face showed a trace of confusion at first, and then relief. It suddenly occurred to him that Nick Fury knew many Skrulls, and the Skrulls were once a super-cosmic civilization that was not inferior to the Kree. Such a civilization must have very complete records of the races in the universe. The key point is that the Saiyan strength shown by Hawking is so powerful that it cannot be that small an unknown race. So it's understandable that Nick Fury can guess it. Even if he doesn't know the Skrulls, it's probably hard for Nick Fury, a suspicious person, to believe the set of experiences that Hawking made up that are very similar to Superman's. It is estimated that only the general public will really believe that Hawking is the Saiyan Superman from planet Vegeta. Is it still important? Director Fury says it straight. Hawking stopped trying to beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Nick Fury was also very happy. Mr. Hawking, I know what you want to do, and I am willing to cooperate with you and provide the information of those people so that you and your League of Legends company can develop better and better protect the Earth in the future. Hearing Nick Fury's words, Hawking narrowed his eyes and his brain spun at high speed. Finally he suddenly laughed and said, Sure enough, as the saying goes, there are no eternal enemies in this world, only eternal interests. Okay, since Director Fury is so willing to help, I won't be polite. Quote, he originally thought that even if Nick Fury knew that he was not his opponent, in order to deal with the Security Council, he would bring Captain Marvel over to give him a try. And he was also ready to kill Nick Fury and Captain Marvel directly, and then use the aliens as bait to find out more high-level humans who were hostile to him and eliminate them together. But I didn't expect Nick Fury to be so straightforward and willing to actively cooperate with him to eliminate those high-level humans who were preparing to deal with him. This actually made him embarrassed to do anything again. After all, it is indeed not easy to kill Captain Marvel. If Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. are eliminated, no one on Hydra will be able to restrain themselves. Moreover, it is not an easy task to identify the high-level human beings who are targeting him one by one. Okay, every few days, I will send you the relevant information I have collected, including the location of each of them. Nick Fury was relieved to see Hawking agree. If those on the Security Council were not so short-sighted, he would have planned to use a gentle policy to stabilize Hawking first, and then find ways to gradually succeed. Now the members of the Security Council have issued a death order. Hawking's problem must be solved, otherwise S.H.I.E.L.D.'s funding supply will be stopped. And he knew that even if everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. was involved, they would not be able to defeat Hawking and the X-Men in a head-to-head confrontation. Coupled with his understanding of Hawking, S.H.I.E.L.D. may be completely destroyed in the end. There was really no other way. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided that instead of doing this, it would be better to cooperate directly with Hawking to get rid of those Security Council members who were in the way and get rid of those obstacles that had been checking S.H.I.E.L.D. Although this removes the restraint from Hawking, it also removes the checks and balances from S.H.I.E.L.D. and allows it to enter an era of rapid development. This is also for the sake of the safety of the entire human race and the Earth. The lives of a few selfish and arrogant politicians are exchanged for the safety and stability of the entire human race and the Earth. Otherwise, there is really no chance of winning in a war with Hawking now. After S.H.I.E.L.D. develops for a few years and the Avengers project comes to fruition, then there will be a chance to compete with Hawking again. It just so happens that this incident can be used to make the top leaders of all countries understand how important their S.H.I.E.L.D. is. In the end, only their S.H.I.E.L.D. can prevent the crisis from Hawking. Actually, I think this kind of thing can be easily accomplished even if Director Fury doesn't come to me and asks your wife to cooperate. Hawking asked with a smile. Although he couldn't completely guess Nick Fury's thoughts, he could still make a rough guess. To put it bluntly, I couldn't do anything to him, so I thought of killing people with his hands to achieve my goal. He didn't care, because those were the people he wanted to deal with. Nick Fury feels that without checks and balances, S.H.I.E.L.D. will inevitably develop very fast in the future, but in fact he does not know that Hawking will grow even faster. By the time Nick Fury feels that S.H.I.E.L.D. can deal with the current Hawking, Hawking's strength may have increased more than 100 times compared to now. So, what reason does he have for not agreeing? She can't, she is still different from us. Nick Fury waved his hand. Maria is the kind of person with a kind heart. You can ask her to save people or help others, but she will never agree to kill those high-level humans who have different political opinions. I'm still angry with him about what happened yesterday. After some communication, Hawking got out of the car with the information of several people. Director Fury, I hope you haven't deceived me. If after I finish processing all the lists you provided, there is still trouble from the government that comes to me in the future, then I will settle the score with you. Don't worry, you and your company will not have any trouble in at least the next 5 years. Nick Fury promised. He doesn't need Hawking to solve all the opponents. As long as he solves a small part, he can scare a large part. Then he will stop supplying the list, making everyone feel that it was because of him that he stopped Hawking. In the future, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s funding will increase significantly, and its voice will also increase a lot. 5 years, okay, no problem. 5 years of stable development is enough for him. Back home, Hawking once again separated into several shadow clones and handed over the pieces of information. Several shadow clones took the information, looked at it, and flew out of the room using Wukong Jutsu. With shadow clones and transformation techniques, coupled with various magics, he has too many ways to make those high-level human beings die in various accidents without leaving any evidence to prove that he is the one who the superhero who saved the Earth. Of course, as long as the top human beings are not stupid, they will guess that he did it. As for the rest of the matter, just leave it to Nick Fury, he is only responsible for killing people. 1 week after the events of the apocalypse, the Christmas holidays ended. Wanda, Pietro and Hawking said goodbye to Oakley and Elena and returned to the mutant school. Both of them seemed to be in a good mood. As soon as he opened the door of the principal's office, he saw Professor X and Magneto playing chess. Professor X smiled even more when he saw Hawking appear. I saw in the news recently that the existence of mutant heroes from League of Legends has greatly changed the attitude of many humans towards mutants, and Aurora and the others have many human admirers. The relationship between humans and mutants seems to have taken a big step forward, thank you, Hawking. Quote, although I am not a mutant, I am still a student of this school, and I said at the beginning that I will not let you, Professor, regret your decision. Hawking smiled and walked up to the two of them. Magneto looked up at Hawking. I still don't think you can solve the fundamental problem in this way. Human beings' selfishness and arrogance will still deal with you sooner or later. But if you are willing to release your restraints on me when the time comes, I will still be willing to help you. Quote, I don't need your help. You can play chess with the professor here for the rest of your life. Hawking dealt with it casually, and then talked to Professor X about matters related to future mutant students joining the League of Legends company. The professors at the school have to teach at the school and have their own things to do. It is unlikely that they will go to the company as often as Peter and Jessica. So they only appear occasionally on important occasions. The ones who actually joined League of Legends International were X-Men like Colossus, Phantom Cat and Iceman who had just graduated. Hawking feels good about this. The younger the person is, the easier it is to manage, and the older the person is, the more troublesome it is. Just do as you say. The Xavier family will fully cooperate with the development of the League of Legends company, including funds, venues, talents, etc. If you need it, feel free to transfer it from the family. Hawking, everything in the future will be left to you. I will teach students in school, and then play chess with my old friends, and enjoy my old age. Quote. After the conversation was almost over, Hawking left the principal's office with a smile on his face. Seeing the dawn of harmonious coexistence between humans and mutants, Professor. And Hawking naturally did not refuse. Now that the scale of the League of Legends company is expanding, it does require a lot of funds and talents. He wants to create a full-scale star superhero company that is not inferior to Walt's company. Okay, I understand, I will go and observe when the time comes. In the school's combat simulation room, Hawking hung up the phone. It has been a while since school started, and with the full participation of the Xavier family, League of Legends International is now fully on track. Coupled with his cooperation with Nick Fury, the government also gave him the green light, and there was no attempt to find trouble at all. So he left many things to the Shadow Clone to handle. Except for some more important matters, he basically stayed in school to improve his strength. Magic, ninjutsu, physical body, and now various new powers within Kurosaki Ichigo. All of these require him to spend time transforming them into his own strength. The call he just received was from Victor Von Doom. Poor Doom informed him that in a few days, he would go to space to conduct solar storm experiments based on the time calculated by Reed. Therefore, I want to invite him to observe the spacecraft before it sets off. League of Legends is developing so rapidly now and has become popular all over the earth. It will definitely become a behemoth in the future. Hawking is a superhero who saves the world. Doom's attitude towards Hawking is naturally much more important than before. I guess I also want to take this opportunity to build a good relationship with Hawking, and maybe we can cooperate in the future. Of course Hawking will not refuse. He will keep an eye on Reed, and after finishing this matter, he will quickly ask him to come back to help him research gravity equipment. In fact, he was thinking about whether to go to space and let the solar storm come, maybe he could awaken some abilities. But then I thought about it and let it go. That thing is completely uncertain. He is not an ordinary person. He already has so much blood in his body. If there is a problem caused by the solar storm, it will be troublesome. Rather than taking that risk, it's better to develop your own strength. After all, the power system brought by any of his current protagonist templates has great potential. Also, in this world, many things are destined. It is not as simple as it seems on the surface, and there may be many things involved behind it. Just like Peter was bitten by a spider and transformed into Spider-Man, but if the person bitten was not Peter, he might have been poisoned to death. The Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom activated their respective abilities after being swept by the solar storm, but if it were others, it would not necessarily be the case. It was more likely that they would turn into dust directly after being swept away. If you don't have the power to control it, it's best not to touch it. Hawking, what are you going to observe? Wanda, who had been listening to Hawking's call with open ears, asked curiously when she saw Hawking hang up the phone. Hawking laughed and said, "Watch a spacecraft take off in a space experiment. I haven't seen the spaceship yet. Hawking, can you take me with you then?" Wanda rolled her eyes and immediately had some ideas in her mind. Under the setting sun, she and Hawking cuddled together, watching the spacecraft take off, and the wind blew through their clothes. It felt very romantic just thinking about it. And, is this considered a date? Hawking shook his head. No, that day is Wednesday, and you have to go to class. When the next holiday comes, I will take you to see it when I have the opportunity. In his heart, going to school is still very important, and he cannot just ask for leave casually. So after Christmas, Wanda had been clamoring to join the League of Legends company as a superhero, but he rejected it. He feels that whether it is Wanda or Pietro, if they want to use their abilities to become superheroes, they must at least wait until they graduate from school and become adults. And just in case, he also needs to make some preparations for the two of them in advance. Just like Pietro, if he didn't get a good enough armor for him, it would definitely not work. He didn't want Pietro to be shot to death one day like in the movie. Brother, Just take me there. There is no cultural class that day. The main thing is to learn how to control our abilities. I train with you every day, and you can control it well enough. Seeing Hawking's refusal, Wanda immediately used her coquettish technique, hugged Hawking's arm and began to shake it. Also, you asked me to keep it a secret last time, and you promised to go shopping with me but you didn't go. Seeing Wanda's refusal to let go until she agreed, Hawking felt helpless. But after thinking about it, Wanda's control over the power of chaos is indeed very good now, and it really doesn't matter if she trains or not, so she finally nodded. Okay, I'll take you there, I'll take you there. Let Wanda help her train with chaos magic every day, and take her to play for a day, which is enough to satisfy her. Then do you want to take the skin off? Hawking thought that since he had brought Wanda with him, he might as well bring his younger brother Pietro, but he was interrupted by Wanda in the middle of his words. No, he won't go. He fell down last time he used his ability. You have to take a good class. How could the beautiful world between two people be ruined by Pietro? That's it, let's go then. Okay, today, Sunday, my gravity training is over. You can go and play. Quote. Hawking nodded and didn't care. Although he had previously intended for Pietro and the Invisible Woman to form a couple, now that Pietro was only 14, and the Invisible Woman was not a pervert, how could he like her? Okay, let's go out. Seeing Hawking agree, Wanda immediately left the training room happily. Generally, she would train with Hawking in the evenings from Monday to Friday, and during the day on Saturdays and Sundays. It's almost time. After looking at the clock in the training room, Hawking immediately loaded the Naruto template. If there is nothing important these days, he will take an hour every day to go to Konoha to get familiar with the environment and brush up his favorability. And in order to prevent the impact of the Nine Tails being suddenly taken away from Naruto during the battle, he would confirm with Naruto the time to come the next day every time he left. This time is exactly the time we made yesterday. The psychic technique and the reverse psychic technique came to Miamu Mountain, and then Naruto channeled the spirit to Konoha. Hey, Naruto, we're training again. As soon as he appeared, Hawking saw a dense scene of Naruto practicing with his shadow clone. Good afternoon, Kakashi, Yamato. Then he waved to Kakashi who was leisurely over there and Yamato who was almost exhausted. Because Sasuke was not brought back from the last mission, when Naruto came back, he went to Kakashi, who had just been discharged from the hospital, to improve his strength. Kakashi also developed a cheating training for him based on Naruto's characteristics. Using a large number of shadow clones to practice changes in chakra properties can shorten the practice that takes more than 10 years to a few dozen days. Hawking, you are finally here, I can take a rest. Seeing Hawking appear, Yamato immediately relaxed. There is a problem with Naruto's shadow clone training method. That is, once his chakra is exhausted, the Nine Tails chakra will take the opportunity to emerge with the intention of breaking through the seal. To do this, Yamato needs to use the wood escape to restrain the tailed beasts and suppress the chakra of the Nine Tails throughout the process. As long as Naruto practices every day, Yamato will have to suppress Yamato with his wooden escape, and he cannot relax for a moment. But things are different when Hawking comes, because once Hawking comes, it means that the Kyuubi has been transferred to Hawking, and naturally there is no need for Yamato to use wood release to suppress it. So during this period, Yamato was very happy every time he saw Hawking appear. Huo Jin, you go shopping by yourself, I'm going to continue practicing. After channeling Hawking, Naruto said hello and continued back to his group of shadow clones. He is now working hard to improve his strength and try to rescue Sasuke before Orochimaru takes Sasuke's body. Don't worry about me, I'm going to take a walk in the village. Hawking nodded and used Wukong Jutsu to fly towards Konoha village. After Hawking flew away, Yamato also sat down on the ground. An hour is too short. If it could be longer, I would be relieved. It won't be a good thing if it gets longer. Kakashi muttered upon hearing this. He already knew about Hawking when he was hospitalized. Now the Nine Tails only disappears for an hour a day, and Konoha's top brass can barely accept it. If it disappears for 7 or 8 hours a day, Konoha's top brass won't be able to sit still. In particular, the Akatsuki organization has been collecting tailed beasts, not to mention the importance of tailed beasts. At that time, Danzo and other advisors may take action against Hawking and forcefully study his body to find out what is going on. Yes, Hawking is a nice guy, so that's fine. Yamato nodded in agreement. He was born in the Roots, but he knew the dark side of the village very well, and he also knew Danzo, the leader of the Roots, very well. During this time together, he had a good impression of Hawking, but he didn't want anything to happen to him. On the other side, Hawking flew at high speed and soon arrived at the entrance of Konoha village. After saying hello to Konoha's door god duo Kamizuki Izumo and Gang Ziti, he walked in. After that, he wandered around the village as usual. In his current situation, he no longer cares about most of the ninjutsu in this world. The damage dealt by wind escape, water escape, fire escape and the like is far inferior to that of chi bombs and qigong. Even with the addition of nature changes, it's really just that. Moreover, he inherited the same wind attribute as Naruto, so it would definitely be quite time-consuming to continue to develop other attributes. So his target is those ninjutsu with special abilities. For example, the Flying Thunder God technique can mark space and then teleport, the Sealing technique can seal all kinds of messy things, the Filthy Earth reincarnation technique can resurrect people, etc. It's just that these ninjutsu are Konoha's advanced ninjutsu, and they are not something ordinary people are qualified to learn. By the way, there is also the 8-gate armor dunning technique, which uses chakra to open the 8 gates of the body and greatly enhance physical strength and chakra, which is also very useful for him. If there is a chance later on, maybe we can get Nagato's Rinnegan. The 6 paths of reincarnation of the Rinnegan is quite good. One of them seems to be able to read soul memory, which can be used to read Voldemort's soul. If his combat power exceeds that of Otsutsuki Kagaya, one day he can blast the moon with a turtle-style qigong, release Otsutsuki Kagaya, directly dig out her 9 Magatama Samsara Eye and press it on himself. How can I legitimately get ninjutsu from Tsunade? Whether it is the Mangekyo, the Rinnegan, or the 9 Magatama Rinnegan, it is not something that can be considered now. Now we can only consider Konoha's existing ninjutsu first. It's not that he can't defeat him, but 1 hour is not enough time for him to find the owner of these eyes. He can only wait for Naruto to meet him one day and channel him, so that he can have a chance to seize it. Fortunately, this time will not be too long. Judging from the current time, it should not be more than half a year before the final decisive battle. It stands to reason that there should be a problem at the Temple of Fire. Walking on the streets of Konoha, Hawking carefully recalled the memories of his previous life. If he remembered correctly, it seemed that not long after Naruto asked Asuma for wind escape, the Fire Temple was massacred by the Immortal Duo. Asuma then led people to capture the Immortal Duo, but was killed by Hidan, leaving Kurenai and her unborn child behind. Now Naruto can use wind release to separate waterfalls, and is trying to integrate wind release into the Rasengan to create a more powerful ninjutsu, wind release and Rasengan Shuriken. So Asuma's death should be within these few days. Asuma is the son of the 3rd Hokage, the current leader of the Sarutobi clan, and one of the few elite Junin in Konoha. His life should be exchanged for a good ninjutsu. It's almost time to close the net. Regarding Asuma, he had already laid the groundwork for it when they first met. After walking around Konoha village, he soon found Sarutobi Asuma on a street. At this time, Asuma was shopping sweetly with Kurenai. Good afternoon, Asuma, Kurenai. Good afternoon, Hawking. Seeing Hawking appear in front, Asuma and Kurenai smiled back. This Hawking is said to be a psychic who lives in Miamu Mountain. He accidentally has a psychic contract with Naruto and can be channeled by Naruto from Miamu Mountain for an hour every day. During this time, many ninjas knew him because he often wandered around Konoha. Asuma and Kurenai also met Hawking through Naruto's introduction, and Hawking gave him a very beautiful crib when they met for the first time, which made them a little embarrassed at the time. Although everyone knew that the two were in a relationship, they were not married yet, so it was a bit unprepared to suddenly give them a crib and say that they were looking forward to having a baby. However, the two people's overall impression of Hawking is still very good. Hey, Hong, you are pregnant. I told you that you two are going to have a baby soon, but you still don't believe it. Hawking looked at Hong up and down, and then said something that made Asuma almost jump on the spot. What, Red, you're pregnant? Well, I just confirmed it a few days ago, and I was planning to find a suitable time to tell you. Hong's face suddenly turned red and he nodded shyly. When Asuma heard this, his face immediately showed a look of ecstasy, and he started spinning around on the street with Hong in his arms. But before he could be happy for long, he was stunned by Hawking's next words. Asuma, I see that your hall has turned dark, and you will be facing a certain calamity in the near future. If you can't handle it well, you probably won't be able to see your newly born child. Hawking, why do you say that? Asuma reacted and looked at Hawking with some confusion. He didn't know why Hawking said such unlucky words. Hong next to him also frowned, waiting for Hawking's explanation. I am born with the ability to see through fate. Although this ability cannot be used every time, once it appears, I basically never miss it. Like last time I saw you were having a baby. This time I also saw that you will be in danger of death in the near future, so take care. Quote. Hawking patted Asuma's shoulder inscrutably, and then left without waiting for the two to continue asking questions. Only Asuma and Kurenai were left messy in the wind. It's okay. He might just be joking. How can it be true to see through fate? Seeing that Hong was still distracted because of Hawking's words, Asuma quickly comforted her. But Hong held Asuma's hand and said worriedly, Hawking doesn't seem like someone who would make such a joke. He also forgot that he is from MT. Miaomu, and it is said that the toads in MT. Miaomu seem to have the ability to predict the future. I'm afraid, normally, as a Junin, she might not believe Hawking's words out of reason. But at this time, she was about to become a mother, and she was most sensitive to this kind of thing, and would rather believe it than not. Especially when Hawking did predict her pregnancy when they met for the first time. In this way, when I have time, I will ask Tsunade-sama to see if Hawking really has the ability to see through fate and predict the future. Tsunade-sama should know a lot about MT. Myoboku. In order to comfort Kurenai, Asuma quickly assured her. He actually didn't believe what Hawking said, but he felt it was necessary to report this kind of information to Tsunade. Tsunade had also told them before that if they came into contact with Hawking in the village, if there was any special information, they should report it in time. It feels like Hawking is more than just a psychic from MT. Mayuki. At first, he discovered that an ANBU was monitoring Hawking, but it was only recently lifted. The next day, Hawking King was channeled and received a notice from Kakashi, saying that Tsunade had something to do with him. So he went directly to Konoha's Hokage building without making any further stops. Tsunade-sama, are you looking for me about Asuma? As soon as they met, Hawking asked straight to the point. He guessed that his words about Asuma most likely reached Tsunade, so he was summoned. If Asuma and Kurenai didn't take his words seriously and didn't tell Tsunade, and Tsunade didn't come to him because of this matter, then what he said could arouse Tsunade's curiosity and take advantage of the situation. Talk things out. Yes, Asuma came to see me yesterday. I want to ask if what you said yesterday is true. Tsunade was also very straightforward and got straight to the point. She was naturally very concerned about Asuma's death. Asuma didn't know, but she understood that Hawking didn't come from MT. Miaomu at all, but from another world. So it's hard to say whether we can predict the future and see through destiny. Hawking nodded very seriously. Of course I won't joke about this kind of thing. I can indeed see through fate and predict the future. Although the activation of this ability is accidental, so far, as long as I predict it, I have basically never made a mistake. Therefore, if one does not forcefully interfere with the development of fate, Asuma will inevitably die within half a month. Quote. You said you won't interfere with fate, so if there is a way to interfere with fate, can you change fate and let Asuma survive? Tsunade raised an eyebrow. She didn't completely believe what Hawking said, as it was too illusory, but she didn't dare to completely disbelieve it. After all, it involved Asuma's death. Not to mention that Hawking comes from another world, this is their world, and there are things about predicting the future. She had heard many stories about the predictions made by the giant toad sage from Jiraiya. So now, she decided to solve the problem based on what Hawking told the truth. Well, that's not true, but... Hawking looked embarrassed. Seeing this, Tsunade raised her eyebrows and asked. Is there any difficulty? Changing your destiny doesn't sound like an easy thing, so problems are to be expected. Hawking pretended to sigh. Indeed, to tell you the truth, since I can see through fate and predict the future, I do have the ability to change my destiny against the will of heaven, but for me, using this ability will come at a high price. So, asthma is very important to the village, Hawking. We are willing to make up for your price. Tsunade instantly understood what Hawking meant and gave the answer without hesitation. She is not stupid. If it is confirmed to be true, it will be worth paying more to save Asuma. But if it is later found to be false, the so-called price can be cancelled. The main thing now is to first listen to what Hawking's solution is, and then judge whether it is true or false. Based on the last prediction, I can see some scenes of Asma's death at the cost of burning part of his soul, so as to obtain corresponding information and avoid death. And my request is that Konoha should teach me all the sealing ninjutsu without reservation. Quote. Seeing that Tsunade understood what he meant, Hawking stopped making false claims and directly issued the terms of the deal. Sealing ninjutsu can be said to be one of the types of ninjutsu that he values most. You must know that sometimes many existences have the attribute of immortality. Some are immortal in body, and some are immortal in soul. No matter how powerful you are and you can defeat them, you still cannot kill them. In such a situation, the sealing technique can be effective. Moreover, the sealing techniques in the ninja world also have many effects, not only sealing the entire person, but also sealing energy, sealing abilities, etc. The sealing technique is not like the Flying Thunder God's Jutsu or the Earth Reincarnation Jutsu, which require top talents to learn. It is a system of ninjutsu, ranging from simple to difficult. Anyway, if you want to learn it, you can definitely learn it, but the effect of using it depends on the individual. However, he was still confident about this. The Whirlpool clan was already the best at sealing, and could also develop the King Kong seal that came with their bloodline. The main reason was that he was not sure that he could trade Asuma's life for the Flying Thunder God technique and the Earth Reincarnation technique, which were strictly forbidden to be leaked. Sealing technique. I thought, okay, no problem. Upon hearing Hawking's transaction conditions, Tsunade was stunned for a moment, and then immediately agreed. She guessed that Hawking might want to trade ninjutsu. She had learned from Naruto before that Hawking had a psychic toad boss who went to his own world to help fight, and the strong men in that world were also terrifyingly strong. So she thought Hawking wanted to trade some of Konoha's powerful ninjutsu. Okay, since Lady Tsunade agreed so readily, let's start without further delay. Hawking nodded, and then sat cross-legged directly on the floor of the office. Tsunade-sama, please protect me. Is this so straightforward? Seeing Hawking start like this, Tsunade was stunned for a moment, but she quickly got up from her seat and quickly came to Hawking's side. It's really damaging to the soul. Soon, she discovered that Hawking's head drooped, and his whole body seemed to have been hollowed out, and his life was instantly gone. It seems I'm overthinking it. In fact, when Hawking said that it would harm her soul, she didn't believe it in her heart. But now that she saw in person that Hawking's soul aura really dissipated after using his ability, she realized that what he said was true. I can't help but feel a little guilty in my heart. So she also secretly decided that if the future predicted by Hawking really matched up, then she would definitely find the ninjas in Konoha who were best at sealing techniques to teach Hawking the sealing technique. When Tsunade protected Hawking, Hawking's own soul was standing opposite Tsunade. It turned out that just after he sat down cross-legged, he entered the mode of the god of death and left his physical body wearing a Death Overlord costume. In normal death mode, the soul leaves the body and is invisible to ordinary people, which is better than the invisibility spell. Of course, if an attack is launched, some people with keen senses will definitely be able to detect it. Now he was just watching quietly, neither attacking nor using spiritual power, nor conveying any malicious intent, so Tsunade was also unable to detect the existence of his soul. He planned to wait like this for a few minutes before his soul returned, and continue to pretend to be a magician to fool Tsunade. As expected, I still like great principles. If I'm looking for a wife in the future, I won't say that I have such great principles, but half of it will do. From an angle of appreciating beauty, Hawking looked at Tsunade opposite him, touched his chin and thought to himself. He was not a eunuch, so he had naturally thought about marrying a wife and having children after being reborn. But he also has requirements for his significant other. He is not a face-conscious person, so in terms of appearance, he just wants to be pleasing to the eye. Of course, he prefers a figure that makes sense. The kind of person who is coquettish and flying around the airport is not his cup of tea. The most important thing is that he doesn't believe in love at first sight, but prefers love that lasts for a long time. Because he feels that love at first sight is basically a matter of lust, while love over time means being attracted to each other in all aspects after getting to know each other, and this can last long. It's just that this kind of thing is generally difficult, and that was why I never found a suitable partner in my previous life. Falling in love over time is much more difficult than falling in love at first sight, especially after you were born in society. Your circle is so large, and there are even fewer singles of the opposite gender who can get along with each other for a long time and get along well. In this life, he has never encountered it until now. The main reason is that I don't have time. I am busy with cultivation, and I don't have time to stay with a girl every day and fall in love with him for a long time. He is not in a hurry. He is not very old in this life. The company will develop better and better in the future. More and more female superheroes will join in. As they punish rape and eliminate evil together, they might be able to meet each other. Get the right one. About there, when he came back to his senses, he realized that almost a quarter of an hour had passed. He quickly returned his soul and opened his eyes. Seeing Hawking open his eyes, Tsunade also breathed a sigh of relief. Hawking, how are you? Are you okay? Hawking's physical body had been breathless, and she almost thought that there was something wrong with the backlash of his ability. It's okay. It's just that my soul is a little weak. I will need to recover slowly in the future, but it will not affect my normal performance. Hawking waved his hand and then began to say solemnly. I saw some scenes of Asma's future death, including the scene where Tsunade-sama summoned dozens of Konoha ninjas to issue a mission, and Asma was killed by two very powerful ninjas during this mission. Die. So if you want to prevent Asma's fateful death, then just don't let Asma leave the village to perform tasks during this period. Quote. I summoned a lot of ninjas to issue a mission. After listening to Hawking's words, Tsunade couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Under normal circumstances, Konoha's missions are carried out in small teams. Even when they helped the Sand Ninja village save Gaara last time, they did not send dozens of ninjas to perform the mission at the same time. What kind of important thing happened that made her send out so many ninjas at once? Yes, I saw Asuma, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, Yamashiro Aoba, and Kamizuki Izumo. Hawking reported the names of nearly 30 Konoha ninjas in one breath. For 1 hour a day, after so many days, he had already gotten to know all the ninjas in Konoha. I don't say that I know everyone well, but I can speak a few words when we meet. There are so many. This is almost all the ninjas she can mobilize, except for the ninjas who are out on other missions and who have to stay in the village. Tsunade's brows furrowed. Do you know who those two enemies are? What are their characteristics? I have only been to Konoha, and they are not ninjas from Konoha, so I don't know them either. However, those two people were wearing black robes with fire cloud patterns on them, and their ninja protectors had stripes on their foreheads. They seem to be rebellious ninjas in our world. Quote. Hawking said, pretending to remember. It's Akatsuki. As her pupils shrank, Tsunade instantly knew who Hawking was talking about. She had already faced Akatsuki once before when she was helping Sunagakur village save Gaara. Coupled with the intelligence collected by Jiraiya, she could already make a judgment based on the characteristics that Hawking mentioned. Who else could provoke her into sending so many ninjas on missions and kill Asuma except Akatsuki? Huo-jin, thank you for your help to Konoha. Regarding the learning of sealing techniques, I will find the best sealing technique ninja to guide you. You can learn all the sealing techniques in Konoha. At this moment, she already believed Hawking 70% to 80%. Because information about Akatsuki must be kept secret by ninjas who know it, and they cannot tell others without her order, and Naruto will not tell Hawking. So the future that Hawking saw is likely to be true. Moreover, she felt that the possibility of Hawking lying about this kind of thing was very small and it was too easy to expose. It was unnecessary to wait for a few days to verify it before giving it to her. It would make her, the Hokage, too stingy. Anyway, even if it is fake, it only takes a few days to learn some basics. Okay, it's almost an hour, I'm going back to my world. Realizing that the time had come, Hawking waved to Tsunade and disappeared. After Hawking left, Tsunade immediately called Shizune. Shizune, has there been any information about Akatsuki recently? Or is there any information saying that something strange has been discovered? No, according to the intelligence sent back from various places, there is no unusual movement, and no trace of Akatsuki has been found. Shizune replied, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.